And welcome to the main event, the Brscc Silver Lake C1 24-hour race here at Silverstone on the Grand Prix circuit. We're getting ready to go racing in 2025 as we just avoid the safety car. As you can see, the cars are lining up on the grid behind us for this 24-hour enduro. Now, I can't do this all by myself. We've got a crackerjack team this weekend of commentators and presenters. So to join me is Richard, John Neal and Scott Woodwish. Gents, come on over. We have an absolute bumper grid of cars this weekend, not as many as we would normally like to enjoy. Richard, what are you looking forward to?
Just the camaraderie of the whole event, you know, whether it's the engineers, the race fans that come in, we get quite a few of those coming in, the team that we work with. You know, I was lucky enough to work on this 3 years ago. It was my first 24-hour event. Couldn't do the following year, but it's great that this event is back, so I'm delighted that the club and everyone have put the work in to get it back. I'm just looking forward to 24 hours of great fun.
Great fun and great coverage. And Scott, a bit like me, you're a bit geeky with the strategy. I'm looking forward to see how it plays out, and more importantly, can this car do it again? Can this car catch up to them? The Emax guys are looking strong.
They are indeed. The Emax car's on the front row is the only city car in the field, so we'll see what they can do from there. Of course, they've got a 6-car squad of Emaxes this year, but of course they go up against the 1-car outfit of Trojan. No matter what you throw at it, it still seems to win a race, whether it's 3, 4 or 24 hours, which is going to be intriguing. I think 1-car stuff are going to be in the mix. Is that Euro car parts car just behind on the second row of the grid. That's got practically an all-star team of drivers of touring car races, including Aidan Moffat, Jade Edwards and Josh Cook, as well as Sylvain Rubia and Ryan Bensley. That's a mega lineup, and that team, in some way, shape or form, has won races before here at Silverstone on the GP circuit. That was over 3 or 4 hours. They're going to do it 6 times longer if they can do it. And of course, in a 24-hour race, literally anything can happen. You could fall into bad luck. You could have some extraordinary fortunes on the last lap. Anything can happen. I think Alan Moffat said it best. If you're not there on the last lap, all the others count for nothing.
Absolutely, Scott. Great analogy there. And we've got some superstars in this field as well. A few that you know from the touring car weekends, but legends, champions, all sorts.
Yeah, for sure. You know, you look down the entry list and, you know, it came through Wednesday, Thursday night, and Rob, it's like a who's who of national motorsport in the UK. And, you know, there are a lot more drivers here racing the other formula that said, actually, we wish we looked at this a little bit earlier. We didn't know it was coming back. And great stepping stone, I think, this year for next year. I hope it's going to come back and run again. But yeah, it's so many great drivers and some people trying it for the first time, which is great. And I know they're going to love it.
Brilliant. Well, Richard, I'll release you from the...
I'm going to go and find Andy.
You're going to go find Andy in the commentary box for the first stint there. Robin is walking down the grid. I think we've got a time to steal some interviews with some drivers. Scott, let's go and talk to the Alpha Trojan squad. Please let me in. Come on, please let me in. He's got the window down just a little bit. Just the one car. You've got father and son teaming up once again to go and get that 24-hour race. Can you do it again?
Let's hope so. Just keep it clean. It's a long old race, so you never know. If the luck's with us, hopefully we've got a good chance.
The lap you guys put in yesterday to put this car on pole position was absolutely phenomenal. Pace-wise, what do you can you think you can match that for the whole race, or is it just a bit of a preservation game?
It's a preservation game, really. There's no way we can do that pace. We're not going to get away today, put it that way. It's going to be a good old scrap to the end, I think. Some quick teams out there.
Fantastic. I'll let you get psyched up and good to go. So that is the Alpha Trojan squad in a very good-looking car there. I'm going to hand the mantle over for the next car to my man Scott. Scott, who are you going to go and speak to?
I'm going to have a quick chat, if we can, to the pole sitters on the front row as well with us. So make a quick chat with our only city car inch, if we can. So have a quick chat with them. Have a quick word to see what we think. Very quickly, we've got 5 minutes or so before we get underway. So, you're the only city car in the field, but you're up against some very fast C1 spec cars. How do you rate the chances in the first couple of hours?
I think we're good. I think we've got the pace in the car. It's just making it last a distance, isn't it? So yeah. Keeping it off the curbs, being tidy with it, and yeah, see what comes at the end of the race.
For those who don't know, compared to the C1 endurance cars, these cars are only meant for really 15-minute sprints or so, but they've been tested a couple of times during the race of remembrance. You've got to put this car through 24 hours worth of racing, so it's a little bit of a voyage into the unknown. Are you confident this car can go over distance?
Yes, if we behave ourselves with it. Stay off the curbs and, yeah, keep it clean.
Good stuff. And so, is it going to be a case of trying to get the whole shot into turn 1, or just remembering it's a 24-hour race and you can't win it on the first lap?
I'd love to get the whole shot into turn 1, but I think those guys are a little bit quicker than us in a straight line. The sticky tyres and the big light on the front slows down a little bit, so I think we're a little bit slow on the straights, but make it up in the corners.
I'm sure everyone on the City Car Paddock's going to cheer you on, so best of luck and fingers crossed you can get a good result. Have a good one.
Cheers.
There we go. The only city car in the field for Emax Motorsport, seeing what they can do. Going to close his door there to make sure he's done. Rob, back to you. Let's head back to the second row and see what we can find.
Not much the second row. We have had the 5-minute board out. I'm going to see if I can very quickly run and grab a chat with the Silver Lake car number 458. Now, Silver Lake traditionally have gone so well in qualifying. Their Gen 2 car's quite far back, and Mike Chapman starts the 458 car here. Chappers, you're starting this race. We know what you can do consistently over a number of laps. You've got great results in the past. What can you do in this 24 hours?
Keep it clean and take it to the finish line's the idea, but we'll see how it goes. Hot end of the grid. Hopefully we can keep it on the black stuff. Hopefully I can get a good tow and we can get away.
And Silver Lake bringing out some gun drivers for this race, some from Snell Speed Racing, and of course yourself, Alan Preble, and Greg Rose running the team, not racing.
Yeah, unfortunately Greg wasn't sort of feeling right up to it, so he's bailed out, but we got some good drivers, so hopefully we can bring both cars home in a decent place.
Fantastic there. That's Mike Chapman, who is starting on the third row in the 458 car. I think, so we don't annoy the officials, we better start sloping off the grid as Ashley Morton and the Orange Army comes up, unless, do you reckon we've got time for one more chat? Scott, who are you thinking?
I think, given the whistle's just gone, I think he's passed on
the whistle is just gone. Now, there is someone I do want to go and grab, and he's over at Garage 18. Come with me, boys and girls. We are about to go racing, but they are clearing the grid, so we do have a little bit of time. We haven't spoken to Robin Welsh today, Scott, and of course, normally he would be putting this whole event together. The Brscc have taken the mantle and taken the risk to put this event on and alleviate some of the pain from missing the 24 hours last year. We need to go and grab a chat with Robin Welsh. Let's go and speak to him now. Bear with me, folks. It's a long walk. He's made sure he's as far away from us as possible. Come here, you.
He's just talking to the coolest man on the paddock.
Always the coolest man on the planet. We'll get to CSR Racing. Robin Welsh, the 24 hours is back. Your thoughts?
Just, it's exciting, isn't it? It's nice to be back at Silverstone, 24 hours. I'm looking forward to the night shift again, and it's all of its excitement. It's just brilliant. It's, you know, to have 24 hour back in the UK, the home of UK motorsport, Silverstone GP. Yeah, it can't get any better.
And we know that motorsport is tough all over the country. There are grids that are suffering. You've still got 41 cars here for a 24-hour race.
Yeah, 42.
42, sorry.
But yeah, still a good number. It's not as big as we've had in the past historically. We've discussed this a lot of times, right? We've been through it, economics and whatnot. And yeah, it's not through lack of trying. It's just, yeah, people are just feeling the pinch a little bit, I think. But we've still got a good grid. It's still, you know, it's bigger than most grids in the UK. You know, and historically our 3-hour races are doing really well as well. So I think it's, you know, I think it's okay. The support's still there. As C1 Club, we're still doing what we can to keep everything safe and fair for everyone, and it seems to be working. So.
It does seem to be working. Myself and Scott, we cannot pick a winner. We can't even pick a top 3. What do you think?
that answers it.
You can't, though, can you? Because I was discussing with my dad earlier, and I think you had, what, 15?
I had about 15 cars. I think, Scott, how many have you got?
At least 10 to a dozen.
Yeah, I got 10, I think, and I honestly couldn't. I couldn't between the 10. I could give you rough teams, you know, but in each of these teams have variable cars, right? And I can't put a number. I can't put. No, I'm not gonna even try.
You can't pick a winner.
No.
Chicken. I can get away with it. We're the broadcasters, but.
No, I can't. I'll have a little think and see. Just try me in a couple of hours. See if I've decided. I'll try and pick one.
Well, I think the key part of this race, there's some new things coming in this year, especially with the full course yellow, the fuelling and the strategy.
Yeah, strategy's completely upside down, right? So from 2021, things that the regulars now know what they're doing. They know when to, how to, you know, what's advantageous, what's not. You know, it's not necessarily pit straight under safety car. It's, you know, let the pack condense, then pit, etc. But now full course yellow and safety and code 60. It's a totally different ball game. So, yeah, and will the teams run now to choose fast, or will they fuel conserve even more? You know, will they run slightly slower lap time to conserve fuel? Who knows?
3-hour stints. We will wait to find out. But the cars are on the move out on the circuit. So, for the first time, certainly for this 24-hour race, we are going to hand to the commentary box to Andy McEwen and to Richard John Neal. These first few hours are going to be an absolute humdinger.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. Tend to agree with that. This is going to be a very exciting race. The cars are released onto their green flag lap. Next time they come past the Silverstone National Pits, it will be to start 24 hours of racing around the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. Andy McEwen, Richard John Neal, Scott Woodwis and Rob Lewis here to talk you through the action. Not for the entire 24 hours, we will have a full live stream with the full quota of commentators and circuit cameras until 9 PM. Overnight, we switch over then to circuit commentary and some static cameras, and then we'll reconvene again at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning to take you to the checkered flag. But we will get to see the opening exchanges, the run through the first cycle of pit stops, and hopefully the first sign of sunset at the end of the evening. The grid is rattling through on your screen. I'll run through the top 10 in a bit more detail. It's the 421 Alpha Trojan car, the winners in 2023, who start on pole position. 421 car shared by Adam Willis, Charlie Bingham, Chris Freeman, Jonathan Munday and Austin Munday. Alongside them, number 15 Emax Motorsport, that's Alex Port, Jeremy Crook and Alex Livesey. Row 2 for 346 is Emax car, the sister car. 346 is the Jake Little car with Stuart Ratcliffe, David Alistair and James Cannings. And the Euro car parts car, easy for me to say, 599 starts 4. That likely is going to be one of the fan favourites, because that's the car that British touring car stars Josh Cook, Jade Edwards and Aidan Moffat are sharing with Sylvain Rubio and TCR UK star Ryan Bensley. So that car is going to be one to watch. Completing the top 5, just go through the top 5, 458. Which is the first of the Silver Lake cars. That car is Michael Chapman, Daniel Duell, George Davis and Robin Welsh, who we've just heard from in the pit lane. So that's your top 5, but we do have 42 cars set to race twice round the clock. Richard John Hill alongside me for this opening part of the race, and we heard Robin Welsh there. He couldn't narrow it down to any fewer than about a dozen potential race winners, and I think that's true. There's been a lot of talk about how it's a slightly smaller grid than we've had in previous years, but the competitive cars are all back, aren't they? It's quality over quantity, and I expect no less of a competitive race than we had here 2 years ago. Wow. And I think an interesting idea, okay, it's not fully taken off for this year, but perhaps for future runnings, is to open it up to other similar cars, City Car Cup cars, European spec cars. I think with a bit more forward planning for 2026, hopefully you could get a much bigger grid and a more varied grid across the classes. Weather conditions steadily improving over the last hour, actually. The sun has broken back through the clouds. It's 13 degrees, but feels about 13 degrees now. It felt a lot chillier before than the thermometer was saying. So perfect conditions then for this opening part of the race. If you've never watched the Citroen C1 series before, you're in for a treat. These little cars might not be the loudest, they might not be the fastest, but they are all incredibly evenly matched. They provide really good racing, and you get an awful lot of mileage out of a tank of fuel. We don't expect any pit stops to come, realistically, till 2.5 hours or so into the race. So you can settle in to this opening stint, pick your favourites, and we'll see in 24 hours' time who comes out a race winner. Alpha Trojan, number 421, starts from pole position. After a pretty dominant performance in qualifying, it must be said they were a full second quicker than Emax's number 15 car that starts alongside them, and that's a car, remember, running in City Car Cup specification. But will it be a little bit closer when the race gets underway? We will find out momentarily. Cars round Luffield, Woodcote, beautiful sight they make as they run 2 by 2 past the pits. They face the red lights on the starting gantry, and the Brscc 24-hour race in 2025 gets underway. After quite a long hold, now away they go, and we are racing for 24 hours. Towards Copse Corner they go, already fanning out 3 and 4 wide in the midfield. It will be the Alpha Trojan car that holds on to the advantage through Copse Corner for the first time in the setting sun here at Silverstone, and they head now down towards Maggots and Beckett's. Fingers crossed it's a clean opening lap. We'd hate to see anybody taken out of contention right at the start of the race. So far, so good. Through Maggots and Beckett's they go. Alpha Trojan leading the way. Emax looking to the outside, not able to make the move stick there. They are 3 abreast through Beckett's on the opening lap of a 24-hour race, Richard. That's not necessarily what I would be doing, but these drivers, for the most part, have done this before. They know what they're doing, and there's plenty of space, or is there? There's contact in the mid-pack. Someone's on the grass. Oh, I almost spoke too soon there, Richard.
Yeah, that's the curse of the... You're not allowed to say it, are we? But yeah, it was a little bit busy, wasn't it, when they got to Beckett's? but they're having a big sort out and all doing a grand job at the moment. I'm not sure, do we have a record for the earliest safety car? It's not going to be lap 1, is it?
I think we have had lap 1 or 2 in the past, I vaguely seem to recall. I think maybe lap 1, yeah, I'll have to double check that. I know we've had early safety cars in this race before, and it opens up the opportunity for strategy because people can come in and refuel, top up the fuel and stretch their stint a little bit longer. For now though, leading 2 are stretching out a bit of a margin over the rest of the field through the club chicane. Lots of curb used by drivers trying to gain a bit of ground, and already a few track limits excursions maybe starting to be racked up. But be careful of that over the course of a stint. It's easy to end up picking up a track limit penalty. Good start so far down towards the right-hander at Abbey. They're going 3 abreast here towards the back of the top 10, almost 4 abreast, although the 4th car in line I think has just decided to bail out of that. But so far everyone taking it pretty easy. One car quite slow on the outside there, maybe had an issue and was fading down the order. Now for Trojan settling in out in front. Those at the front of the field, Richard, quite content I think to just stay in line. Those behind rather tripping over each other.
Yes, there was a bit of that going on, wasn't there? For sure. So Chris Freeman is the race leader at the moment. I've managed to get the drivers out on the times. Alex Livesey in 2nd position at the moment. The Emax Motorsport A. No, it's not Emax Motorsport A. It's A Livesey. We can call it the A car. It might make life a little bit easier.
Yeah. There's 3, 4, 7. Now they were 7th. I think they're still about 7th place as they head towards Brooklands for the first time of asking. Top 2 are the same as grid order. I think there has been a bit of shuffling towards the back of the top 5, but we'll double check that at the end of the opening lap. Certainly the 599 has dropped down the order. Ryan Bensley told me he had been nominated to start that car, nominated by Josh Cook, who said you don't have a choice, you're doing the start whether you like it or not. And we'll do quite a chunk of the nighttime driving, Ryan was saying as well. TCR UK front runner, and he is in that lead group, which really is exactly what he was targeting ahead of the race. Alpha Trojan then lead by nearly a second, so they're getting dangerously close already to breaking the toe. It is that number 15 Emax car in 2nd. Hashtag Blessed are up into 3rd position. 3 places gained for Aidan Hills, Master of X5 Super Cup champion.
That's not a surprise.
Not really.
I wondered whether they would stick Aidan Hills out in the first stint. I think I told you on one of the earlier endurance about he was in one of our charity go-kart thing last year. Didn't do qualifying. Started off back like 4th, come back in 1 lap. But that's Aidan Hills, isn't it?
Yes. 586 in the pit lane, by the way. That's the WRC Developments car. Not sure who started that one, but it's already in the pits. That might have been the car that I saw wide and slow at Abbey Corner. So potentially already our first story. Yeah, was it David in the car for the first stint? Right, yeah. So they are in with some sort of issue. That's too early for it to be a scheduled stop, certainly.
Yes, it is. That's a shame. It's the one with double legends champion Will Gibson. And hello to Will's dad, Adrian. If you're watching at home, I did return your email, but I know Adrian likes watching the streams, and shame he's not here actually, but Adrian wish you well, and hope that car is not terminal. Hope it's a quick diagnostic. Yeah,
fingers crossed. It's quite a long lap here, so you can spend a reasonable amount of time in the pit lane without going a lap down. Ooh, leaning on each other there through the club chicane. That was just behind Aidan Hills. That was the Scuderia Polo Rosso car, I think, and the JP Bird machine trading a little bit of early paint as here Ryan Bensley gets stuck in. I said this would be good practice for the TCR UK round at Silverstone here in a couple of weeks' time. He's going a little bit quicker than this, I suspect, in his Lincoln Co, but the racing just as close. He's on the inside line as they head down the Sir Lewis Hamilton straight towards Abbey Corner. This is the battle for 6th. The leading 5 being pretty well behaved. Behind, though, it's an absolute scrum for track position.
It is. It's very, very busy indeed. And yeah, fascinating things with these races is how you go through this first hour and you settle down. And it's actually very difficult as well for a commentary perspective to get your head around how long it is.
Yes.
Because you kind of think, okay, we're going to break it down into chunks. I mean, I don't know how many people are staying for the entire duration. I take it you'll be going and having a sleep somewhere?
At some point, I suspect, yes. My bed may be calling.
And particularly, obviously, if you're working Thursday. I'm guessing you were working Thursday.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. And you working Monday as well?
Yes. No, actually, no. I have Monday off. I have a Monday off.
You're watching the sleep?
Yes. Whilst at Alton Park, I suspect, for some superbike racing as well. But yes, day off, of course, and it's a racetrack. Misfire, by the way, was the report on the car that hit it. So that was misfiring on the green flag lap, and they brought it in because it sounds like it's down a cylinder, so they don't have that many cylinders to lose, these Citroen C1s, so they want to try and get that sorted before they get back out on circuit. That's a shame. That'll keep them in the pit lane for a little while. Out on track, though, the pack coming through to complete their second lap of the race. What's that lead gap for Alfa Trojan? It's down because Scuderia Polo Rosso are into second. That's the 310 car up into second place and going after the leaders, Richard.
They are very much, aren't they, with Aidan Hill still in third position. And of course, you just not necessarily going to have to worry about staying there because of pit stop strategies and everything else. But there's a little bit of bragging rights, isn't there, for getting out there, getting away from the packs, finding a bit of clear space on track and keeping out of trouble. Because we saw in the opening lap, when it's crowded, that can cause a little bit of rubbing, cause a problem.
And because all the teams are very aware of this full course yellow and code 60 that's in play this year, we're not anticipating that many safety car periods. So actually, if you get stuck in a battle for fifth now, you might lose 10 or 15 seconds over the course of a stint to the leaders. You're not guaranteed to get that back with a safety car later on, so I think they have got to be a bit more mindful of that, and that's why we're seeing quite a bit of working together. Look, Aidan Hill's been given a shove by the JW Bird car. That's the third and fourth place cars working together to close in on the leading two, who themselves are absolutely nose to tail. It's James Matthews, by the way, in that Scuderia Polo Rosso car in second, who has latched on to the race leader. And this next sort of battle pack continues on its way through Stoke Corner as well. That, though, is your lead battle. So it is the Alfa Trojan 421, Scuderia Polo Rosso, the red machine, number 310, hashtag blessed Aidan Hill's MX5 racer 326 in third. The 347 JW Bird car is on their own in fifth now, that number 15 Mac Motorsport car.
If they're going in the order on the sheet that I've got, there's Colin Bicep here as well. Obviously Colin here.
Yeah.
So, and you look through, I mean, not just that team, they've all got great sets of drivers, haven't they?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you said, I think, on the grid before, it's a who's who of national motorsport in the UK. It absolutely is.
Thank you for listening. I probably would have switched off if it had been me, but there we are.
I hang on your every word, Richard. You know that.
You poor soul.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely correct. You know, there's a reason that stars of British motor racing, touring car drivers, GT drivers come and have a go in Citroen C1s. I think a lot of people.
Jade gave us a plug on ITV last week as well, which was
really
mega.
Amazing,
Jade,
amazing. But she really does love the. She and Josh Cook have raced in quite a lot of the regular C1 series races, not just the 24 hours. They love driving these cars.
Like Ting as well, he does that, doesn't he, as well?
Absolutely so, yeah. And that is a great advert for Citroen C1 racing. Right, leaders down at Brooklands. Is Aidan Hills thinking about a move here on the Scuderia Polo Rosso car? I think they're all quite content to run as they were. So the first side-by-side battle is this one, further back, and that's the 333 car. That's the facelifted Citroen C1, which is the CMR racing machine. Looking to the inside, they screech their way through Brooklands. Oh, and there's a tangle further back, two cars out wide. Both will rejoin. 427 and 527 are the two cars. So 427 is AF Racing, 527 Red Sky Racing. I think they got that just about sorted out, back on track and no obvious damage.
Yeah, what do you think is the most difficult moment for a driver? Is it the start, because you're going out there and it's all completely fresh, or is it when you get complacent a little bit later on?
Yeah, I mean, I would always imagine, and it's certainly something drivers tell me, it's that last stint, that last hour, especially if you're in a good position, because the whole race, if it all goes wrong now at the start of the race, okay, it's very disappointing, you're out of contention before it even begun, but at least you haven't wasted your 24 hours contending for a win, for it then to all go wrong in the last hour. So I think that last part of the race is always the most tense, isn't it, for the drivers? Most racing drivers relish a chance to go out there and be in this dogfight at the start of the race, the closest racing that we'll have across the 24 hours. Of course, naturally happens in the first stint. I think most of them probably quite enjoy it, even though it's actually the time of the race where things could more easily go wrong.
That's absolutely true. Do you know what? I can't remember if it's a Mazda driver or a Fiesta. With Mazda's at Snett, they haven't done something yet, have they? It was a Fiesta driver. Fiesta, I won't say who it was, but we were talking about, I said, why don't you come down and get a... Yeah, really fancy that. And we were talking about it, and I said, I remember we had a C1 race here at Snett, and there was one of the, I think it was the Dragon Sport team car went out on that one. Yes. And I said, that's a real pain, isn't it? If you pay your money and the car gets banjaxed on the first lap. And he said, you've just taught me how to doing it.
Oh, no.
I said, no.
Well, that
Marshall's already doing pickup.
Yeah, already a wing mirror that's gone flying. And I'm not surprised, really. Look at this. Absolutely neck and neck through the club chicane. And, we've got it sorted out just about. Who's in this group? That's Bensley towards the front of it. So this is for about 6th-ish, I think, 6th or 7th-ish, this group making their way down the Hangar Straight. In fact, it's 5th place, isn't it? Because the 15 in 5th position has been sucked back into that group now. So you've got 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th positions together. And Bensley slips up the inside of the 15 and actually moves into 5th position. So Ryan Bensley on the move now.
He's having a good run, isn't he? Ting was behind him in 8th position, Tom Ingram. As ever, a character. The thing with Tom Ingram, does great interviews, doesn't he?
He does.
But he does great normal chat. The normal chats are exactly the same.
Yes, they are. They are.
A lot of people think it's a TV persona.
No,
it
no,
isn't.
no.
It's Tom.
Yeah, no, that is him. That's why we love him. It is not put on at all. And Tom Ingram, a great character to have on the grid. And he'll be loving this, won't he? Getting stuck into the close racing and nip and tuck stuff. And this weekend doesn't have to watch out for Ash Sutton, does he? I think that will be a relief for Tom
had a good weekend last weekend with the minis as well.
Yeah, of course they did. Yeah.
I was going to Tom yesterday and I was saying that the likes of Tom and him, Ryan Bensley, Jade Edwards, and Aidan Moffat, all those three, they don't actually appreciate, I don't think, how much it means to the other drivers when they are in this and when they're in the other round. Because I've had drivers come to me and say, you know, oh, I've only done 1 or 2 races before. And it was in C1s, and you know what? I was dicing with Jade Edwards, or I was dicing with Josh Cook, and people say that, and I don't think those guys fully appreciate how much people impart that, because they're not going to go up to Jade and say, "I really enjoyed having that race with you," but they do come and tell us, how much they, and it really means a lot. So it's great that they're out there, and they're putting reputations on the line.
Yeah, absolutely.
They don't have to be out here.
If they came into this and they were a second off the pace, then that raises questions, doesn't it, I suppose? Not that tends to happen generally, but they don't have to come and do this, as you quite rightly say. They're a great yardstick, though, then, aren't they, for the top level of club racers, for example, who want to match, sort of mark themselves against these top touring car stars. So lead 4 stayed in the same position. Everything else in the top 10 changed on that lap, with Ryan Bensley up to 5th, Tom Ingram up to 6th position. So Ingram is the white car, predominantly white car, second in this queue, for those wondering. Then the pair of Emax Motorsport machines are next. The 15 car continuing to slide down the order ratherly. It is Alex Livesey.
Too many L's.
Livesey. I know I was saying something wrong there. Thank you, Richard.
Right.
He was in the 15 car, slipping down into 8th position.
I got it wrong for about 3 years before someone told me.
I feel slightly better now. Ingram, though, on the attack. Now, will he work with Bensley here, or does Tom believe that he's the quickest driver in this group? If that's the case, he'll want to get to the front of it and lead the charge, because these leading quartet have really gapped them now, nearly 8 seconds up the road.
This is good. So I'm wondering whether, I know Aidan's dad, Darren, is away on holiday. I'm wondering if he's looking at the stream. So there's no way I'm going to be able to pick up a response from him. I'm not going to probably anyway. But I know there will be a great deal of people wherever they are as well. It'd be good to see Darren in it as well. But Aidan with the fastest lap, 3 minutes .031.
Indeed so. For all this talk up and down the pit lane that Alpha Trojan were going to be uncatchable, they're a second a lap quicker than the rest of us. I don't know how they did it. What's the point anymore? They're going to dominate. Well, hardly. We've got the top 4 covered by 1.3 seconds. They are still absolutely together. And this is the great thing about C1 racing. That slipstream is reasonably powerful in these cars because the cars are not that powerful. So any aerodynamic advantage you can gain is really going to make a big difference around a circuit like this. And because they're tucked in behind that Alpha Trojan machine, it's the 3 cars behind, immediately behind them anyway, it is remaining pretty close. Don't think any of them are really wanting to dice too hard at the moment. Of course, for those further back in the queue as well, Richard, they can do a little bit of fuel saving, and that is key because it's such a long stint, a long fuel window. They can go nearly 2.5 hours on a tank of fuel. Well, if you could save another lap, that's another 3 minutes. If you could save 2 laps of fuel, that's another 6 minutes that you can go longer. And over the course of 24 hours, especially if we don't have that many safety cars, that could prove crucial in the final 2 or 3 hours of the race.
It could, couldn't it? Can they actually save that much?
Well, I don't know. Can they? I've got a former C1 driver next to me, Luke Pullen. Excellent. Wasn't listening to us. Brilliant. I don't blame him. I don't blame him one bit. Drivers have said they can save a lap or so.
Do you know what? That's really honest of him, because I'd have just nodded and said, yeah, 100%. Well done, Luke.
Valid contribution, Luke Pullen. Thank you for that. Yes, I have heard a lap or so is doable. Yes, more so behind safety car, of course. But even in the slipstream, you can part throttle down the straights and still be able to run a reasonably quick lap time. So, another new fastest lap there as well for the second place car. So, Scuderia Polarosso taking the fastest away from as well, I should say. Yeah, they've closed right in on the leading 2.
So here we go, a little bit of side by side. Let's see how this one is going to pan out. So actually, we've moved a bit further back, haven't we? Actually, 427. That is the AF Racing car. Now, am I going to say this correctly? Athanasius Barnico, is that in relation to Ben?
I really hope it is. I don't know if I'm honest.
I don't know.
I have to go and find him.
But as soon as you see that name, Barnico, it's
not a common name,
yeah.
is it? No, exactly. Quite a difference in first names, if that is the case. But anyway,
The Barnico car.
The Barnico car. There is a smoky car heading down the Hanger Straight look. Now, is that WRC Developments car that was in the pits earlier, or is this another issue maybe befalling a car in the top half of the field? Try and pick that up in a moment or two if we can. They're just going through Stowe Corner, I believe, just out of Stowe Corner. As this group of cars continues to battle, it's 5-8-1 at the front of this group. So this is 21st position. Rautech International is the 5-2-1 car. That's the red machine at the front of the group. No longer at the front of the group though. 474 next to the inside. That's RPE Musso. Some quick drivers in this car as well. Aldo Ritti, Jack Moody, and they're all the way outside the top 20. Shows how tricky it is to run competitively in a race like this. A long way to go. Find a way from strategy perhaps to get themselves into contention for a good result. Smoky car seems to have either disappeared completely or stopped smoking now, so that's good news. And I think that WRC Developments car, by the way, that came in has rejoined the circuit. Yes, it has. David Drinkwater, 42nd and last position. The 487 is also showing as a lap down. Only now coming across the line, nearly a full lap back, is M8 Racing. So a couple of them having some early dramas. But there is at least time, if it all goes wrong at this stage, to try and regain some of the lost ground.
Robert Lewis, did we say it was coil pack for the David Drinkwater car?
No, because I wasn't checking my WhatsApp messages.
Okay.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, Rob Lewis. And also, I had a message from Will Gibson's dad saying that lasted about as long as Legends cars last. So I'm sure if Phil Cooper from Legends is watching, he'll be delighted. Not that he will be, but, you know...
James for position 3-4-5 up the inside. That's 16th place game for Emac Motorsport there. Puts the two Silver Lake liveried machines together. Second of those is the newer, the facelifted version, but exactly the same internally. Same performance as the older spec cars. Good battle going on here outside of the top 20.
Where's the Brscc car? This is what I need to know.
Ooh,
and who is in it?
Good
Who is in it? Let's have a quick look. It's 410, isn't it? Do you know I remember it's 410? Because that's the number of our local bus service when I was growing up.
Oh,
so
really?
It's been driven like a bus. So they'll thank me for that one.
We're referring to them as the Brscc team because it's made up entirely of Brscc officials. Their actual team name, is Grandma White's Welsh Cape Warriors with BPC Motorsport, which I think is a terrific team name. Luke Sant, Charlie Snell, Greg Graham, Paul McCurley and Andrew Schofield, all of whom we will have plenty of time to take the mickey out of over the
I'm
course of
lining
the
up
race.
with my first task on pit lane duties to go and interview Greg.
He hates it.
So anybody, Scott, your job as well, any pit lane interviews, Chris Hosey, who's doing independent stuff, Greg Graham, interview, yeah. And he's Scottish, so he'll understand you as well. So, all right. So, did Falkirk get promoted? I can't remember. Did they?
I can assure you I don't have a clue what you're talking about, Richard. What I can tell you, moving swiftly on, is we've had a lead change. Scuderia Polo Rosso ahead of Alpha Trojan. Now, that actually happened at the end of the previous lap. So, Scuderia Polo Rosso ahead, 3-1-0. And James Matthews said it was in that car, didn't I? Moves to the head of the field. That's interesting because they didn't really need to swap positions. Perhaps getting the pace to away from the group of cars behind us. We've had our first lead change of the race. Wonder how many will notch up before the 24 hours is up. We got halfway through figuring out who's in the 410 and then got sidetracked. So who is it? It is Andrew Schofield doing the opening stint of the race.
Yes.
So,
that's why it's going up the order, isn't it?
Yes, they've got the pro in.
Him and Charlie will be sort of... Charlie, I think, was quickest. Was quicker than Luke, wasn't he, here in September? Not September, first round when I was watching.
Really?
As a specky, yeah, he was quicker.
I bet Luke enjoyed that.
Do you know what? Luke takes it all in really good, and we're going to have a Mickey take, but he takes it all really well.
Well, we'll watch to see how they get on as they cycle through their roster of drivers. We are, amazingly, 20 minutes already into the Brscc 24 hours, and the sun's starting to set, but the racing action heating up as we move halfway through the opening hour of the race.
Yeah, only 23 hours, 39 minutes to go.
Sprint to the finish, Richard. This is the fight for 5th position. It's still Ryan Bensley who's sort of found himself ahead of Tom Ingram. Ryan will be loving this. Touring car star as he is, not British touring car, but TCR UK. Sticking it to the touring car champion here, taking Tom Ingram behind him. And Tom, to his credit, if he felt he was massively quicker than Bensley, would have probably made a move by now. So I think this is a sign of respect to Bensley, isn't it? That he's not holding up Tom Ingram here. The Liquimolly liveried car, I believe it's still Tom Ingram, isn't it? Behind. No, actually that's changed. I'm talking absolute nonsense. It's 434, which is in behind, which is the Proietti car. And it is Sandro Proietti in that Liquimolly car. There is 431. Is the car driven by former British touring car champion Tom Ingram. So he's actually slipped down the order ever so slightly over the last handful of minutes. Settling down ever so slightly at the head of the field. Those further back, though, still making some good moves. DSC Motorsport gained 10 places, 4 places on that lap. We are losing now, I think, aren't we? 3-4-5, just spotted that. So 3-4-5 dropping down the timing tower. That is one of the Emax cars. It's the Andrew Marriott, Alistair Denby, Andy Steele and Greg Owens car. That hasn't yet made it through. So we're missing potentially 3-4-5. Circuit. We're going to hit 3-4-5. No, that car was pitted. Where they've got to.
What's the optimum number of drivers, do you reckon? Because obviously Tom Ingram's car has got Johnson who knows how to drive these things, and they've got 3. But if you look at Ryan Bensley, he's one of a team of 5. So what do you reckon? I suppose it depends how good the slower drivers are.
Well, yeah, very much that, yes.
But they're both 2 quick teams. One's a 3 driver and the other's a 5.
Exactly. If you've got all quick drivers, then actually the more the merrier, because you keep those really quick drivers fresh for longer and not in the car.
It's 8 hours each, isn't it, on average? So
exactly that, yes. But then if
I couldn't do that.
Oh, absolutely not. No. So to talk for 8 hours, let alone to drive one of these things. But yeah, that's I'd say it depends very much how quick the drivers are, but 4 seems to be the sweet spot, doesn't it? Most of the teams, sort of the average number of drivers per team. There are a handful of 5s and a handful of 3s. Yeah, it's quite a chunk of time for 3 drivers. 585 works its way through. 585 is Emax, yeah. Zoltan Savai, Scott Lawrence and Tristan Judge in
brackets Emax.
Yes, we'll focus on the bit that comes in the brackets, I think. And some inventive team names always in the C18 series. And the Wombles, yes, there we go. We'll leave the rest of that team name to your imagination. And they are, where are they? They're somewhere in the second half of the order, not on page 1 of our timing screen anyway. So this midfield battle continues to rage on. There's the 315 Emax car, lots of Emax cars, as is often the case. Match Racing / warehousing / Ultima Group UK. Nick and Hayden Payne showing Callum Miller in that car. Leaders across the line, it's Alpha Trojan back to the lead, so that's our second lead change, and Alpha Trojan gave Scuderia Polo Rosso a stint out in front, a couple of laps out in front, and then decided, no, we want to lead, and back to the front they've gone.
They have indeed. All very close at the front, and long may it continue. It'd be great if it, I mean it won't because of pit stops and everything else, but it'd be fantastic to have a blanket finish tomorrow.
Well, we had that 2 years ago, didn't we? It went right down to the wire, and the Alpha... Of course, no, you missed that.
Total weekend.
So, 15 in, right, so that car had been slipping down the order in fairness.
Is that the City Car Cup car?
It is, yes. So that car had qualified second, so qualified on the front row, but was running outside of the top 10 at the time of pitting.
Were the emboldened names on the car? Was that the person who set the lap?
I believe so, Jeremy Crook. I think it might have been.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. He's a handy driver, Jeremy Crook. Came through X5 racing, amongst other things. And,
Mini Miglias of late as well.
Indeed so, indeed so. So, but anyway, that car in the pit lane now, and again, it's a little bit early, I would suspect, for that to be a routine pit stop. But Alpha Trojan then back to the front of the field. So an interesting situation there then, that Alpha Trojan were not content to just sit in line. They wanted to hit the front, and I think if any of these cars has the pace to break the toe, it probably is that yellow and blue car. But until the cars behind start squabbling, if that ever happens, that likely, does it? Good. Scuderia Polo Rosso car power of the slipstream now as they go past the wing towards Abbey Corner. Good into the wheel tracks of the race leading car. That's all very sedate and orderly. This midfield group is anything but. And, as they head down through the Vale, this is all going on for about 20 minutes or so, I think, midfield.
Another report from Rob. Car 342 bottom end knock, engine change.
342, that was SF Race.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yes, they're in the pit lane. Yes.
Just like I happened to pick the phone up. I'm not very good at using WhatsApp. People will tell me, because when we do BTCC stuff, people send me stuff. I didn't look at it. I'm there to look at the screen, not look at my phone.
Exactly.
But I'm gradually getting there. I'm gradually getting there with it.
It doesn't help that every race meeting we cover, we get added to 5 new WhatsApp groups. It's impossible to keep up.
Is anyone doing a lap chart today, by the way?
I assume that's what Scott Woodward was doing. Sat next to us on his laptop, knocking up a. He's updating the notes so that we know what we're talking about when we get later on into the race, Richard. We would be lost without Scott's notes, I must say. He's done a lot of hard work before the event, and has put together some fantastic notes. And we're going to do our best to track the pit strategy as well, because that's sort of that's crucial, obviously, particularly when we get into tomorrow afternoon, to see who's going the longest on fuel, who's had the least amount of time in the pit lane. So we'll do our very best to track that as we work through the 24 hours.
That was a fascinating for me in 2022, was having Paul Trussell working with Paul. I hadn't done it before, so that was a major pleasure to be able to do that. But also his knowledge of craft and strategy on these was phenomenal. I don't know if he's watching. Someone who is watching is Rob Gaffney from Amigo Motorsport. Oh, really? They're not here, Rob. Yeah. I did say we had a great long chat last weekend, and he said good luck to everybody on the 24 hours. I'm watching at home, unfortunately, couldn't get the cars out, but we're back for the remainder of the year, so we look forward to seeing Amigo Motorsport back, and hopefully at this event next year. So we did try and get some F4 drivers in one of the Amigo cars. They were 3 or 4 of them were up for it, but Henry Mercier had to go back to the States, I think, tonight. So otherwise we might have had that would have been good, wouldn't it? An F4.
Fantastic.
An F4 team. I don't know how many of them would have been of age to do it as well, because a lot of them are 15.
Good point, yeah.
So they wouldn't have been senior licence, but a lot of them were keen, and we'll do that.
Maybe next year.
Hopefully, I hope so next year. It'd be great if we could have F4 back as well on this weekend next year as well.
Yeah, definitely. An opportunity for them to race on the Grand Prix circuit at Silverstone. So that is a big appeal, obviously, for potentially Formula 1 stars of the future. So, yeah, hopefully we have them back again for 2026. Right then, we are nearly half an hour in. And it is Alpha Trojan's number 41 car back to the front. Had a change for 7th on the previous lap. Tom Ingram starting to move back up the order. Got ahead of the 333 car. That's the CMR Racing machine. And so Tom Ingram now once again is second, I think, in that, no, third in that second group of cars. He's sliding through Stowe Corner comes the 345 machine, another Emax Motorsport car.
Going back to the engine knock, sorry Andy.
Yeah, go for it.
I've got a note with Rob again. He said you could hear the engine knock from Toaster. Well, I didn't hear it in here.
No, he's hearing better than ours, clearly. Oh, big lunge up the inside. 449 gaining not 1 but 2 places. The Roundtech car was one that they overtook. 585 was the other. So good move made there, and it goes to show that whilst it's very sedate at the front of the field, it is anything but really in the mid-pack, because everyone wants to try and get the track position that they can as early as they can. Because once things settle down, it becomes an awful lot harder to move up the order, because the cars are so evenly matched. If you find yourself 10 seconds behind another car, very, very difficult to gain those 10 seconds back. It can take an entire stint to do that. And of course then traffic starts to come into play as well. You want to position yourself as close to the front of the queue as you possibly can. Interesting that we're getting a few personal best laps still coming out as well. That's the other interesting tactical element of this race that I'm sure Rob Lewis will tell us more about. But these tyres last an awfully long time, don't they? And they are capable of pumping out quick lap times deep into a stint. That's 487 in. It's not what you want to see, is it, early in the race? 487 MH Racing with SCR. That's the one that had the misfire, yes, thank you, Scott. So it's not a hive of activity in that garage, is it, Richard? That's concerning.
No, is that the one for misfire?
Yeah, SCR. Yes. So hopefully not.
We've got a couple of misfires in.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, there was another one.
Only had 2 years to get ready for the event. Sorry, guys. I'm overly and unnecessary flippant.
Right then, side by side out of Luffield corner. This group continues to change position almost by the lap, doesn't it? It is for about 20th place, I think. Yeah, 3, 4, 5. Once again, dropping down the order at. Now, they've got a dodgy transponder. That's what caught us out before, I think, the 3, 4, 5 car. And they then get reinstated back into 16th place. So they're just towards the front of this little group. The intermittent transponder now noted on the timing screen.
And that's who's doing the lap chart, TSL, because they do, don't they?
They have to, just in case. Can't rely on technology, can we? To,
do you remember the race day? No race day program this weekend, which is a pity, but back in the day, they would give you, we'd have a nice big A4 paper. And it would have been about 3 pages of blank squares to put in.
Yeah, well, that is...
some commentators still do them, or say which one.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's how I started off when I first started going to Alton Park as a
good way
6 or 7 year old.
It's a really good way of learning to...
Yeah. But it teaches you to follow the race. You're not, they're not just cars going round and round in circles. You're actually tracking
how
their
many
positions.
times have I heard that from people? Well, you watch cars going round and round in circles. But it's a little bit more than that.
Well, yeah, and that's why I always say for a long race like this, at the start of it, if you're new to endurance racing, new to sports, whatever, pick 3 or 4 cars that you like the look of and track them through the race, because then you realise actually they're not just in 5th position the whole time. They might move to 3rd, they might have a bad pit stop, drop to 10th, and you can really follow their story, because at the end of 24 hours, every single one of these teams will have a story to tell, and we will do our best to bring you all of those stories, but if you follow the race properly, that, I think, is when you really start to appreciate endurance racing to its fullest. A lot of people don't necessarily understand, but yeah, doing a lap chart trackside is a good way to get into that. Wouldn't necessarily recommend trying to do it for this race. You're going to get a heck of a lot of A4 paper, but next time you're down at your local racetrack, give it a go. BPC Motorsport 410 there, the Golf liveried car. Makes its way through club. Now they are about the loneliest car on track. They're in 32nd place. And that is, of course, the car with the Brscc logo on the back of it. Andrew Schofield keeping his powder dry, I'd say, at this stage, just outside the top 30.
I just think when we get like Greg or Paul in it, I should just call them up into the clerk's office just for, you know what I mean? That's getting some real belly laughs here, that's the same, mate.
I think there are a few people in race control who may well take you up on that, if you go and ask them really nicely. Yes, all joking aside, they are actually all racers. That's the great thing about the Brscc, isn't it? It is the club that is run by racers. They understand what it's like to race, particularly at club level. And I think that's really important. A lot of other clubs maybe can't boast.
You know, and I mean, like last year, Greg came out in the Fiestas, the 150 Fiestas, just to sort of get himself. I don't think he's retired from racing, but he's not because he's out here today. But he had a go in that, and Charlie started, isn't he now? And Luke races in the Mazda Clubman's.
Yes, he does.
Downforce Radio. Better give a shout. Not Downforce. It was Downforce last year, wasn't it? Clapham North MOT this year.
Yes. Believe so.
Keep George happy. Why isn't George out here?
Now that is a very good point, because rarely does an opportunity to race.
This weekend he could have been in F4, Brit car. Don't laugh. F4, Brit car. He couldn't have done the supercars and Brit car unless we'd have separated the races.
Oh, he'd have found a way.
Caterham.
Yeah.
But he's not here. We miss him.
We do. It's very rare for him not to be at a Brscc event, let alone the C1 24 hours. He's normally out there, isn't he?
He's probably busy with work, to be fair, because he's doing lots of stuff with...
hopefully we'll see him back in the near future. Certainly back for the next MX5 event, I'm sure. So, 35 minutes into the race. Looks like the first lap, doesn't it, this, as they're bumper to bumper onto the Hangar Straight.
It's all good stuff, isn't it? Trojans, Apollo Rosso, JW Bird, 8 minutes down to 4.
Oh, yes, and 2 seconds off the back of that leading group all of a sudden. Don't know what that's all about.
Yeah, Adrian will pick his way back in. It was interesting talking to Will Gibson yesterday. I hope Will Gibson gets a go. And I very nearly said this about Aiden, but it wasn't Aiden, it was Will. We were saying how difficult it was from switching from Legends into this, so totally different. And in testing, he was due to come in, and David Drinkwater said, "No, you're not quick enough to get back out there."
Really?
So imagine saying that, to a double champion driver.
Whole different discipline, isn't it? Whole different discipline, racing C1. it is a challenging car to drive. I know some people will laugh at me for saying that because they're not very quick. But just because they're not quick doesn't mean they're easy to drive. In fact, they're less forgiving because of that. If you do make a mistake, okay, you might not lose control, although that can happen, but you'll certainly lose a lot of momentum, and this is such a momentum-based series. If you do start having a moment out there, you lift off the throttle, you'll lose an absolute chunk of time. Not as much time, though, as you'll lose if you're sat in the pit lane for 20 minutes or so, but sadly the SF racing car has been in for quite a while, hasn't it? It is 42nd and last, it's 3 laps down already, and front bumper being refitted now to that car as well, so I don't know whether that's just because they've taken it off for easier access to the radiator or something at the front, but SF Racing in a little bit of trouble. Leaders then through.
I was going to say that's the engine change, isn't it, that one?
Oh, they are changing the engine.
According to Rob, so.
Yeah. New fastest lap, JW Bird Motorsport in 3rd position. The first lap time underneath the 3-minute mark. So 2:59.987 for the 3:47. That is Rory Clark, yes it is. So 3rd position, getting away now from Maidenhill's in 4th, latching onto the leading 2, and the first car to get underneath the 3-minute mark.
So if we go back to the second row, then the pylons are going to go back. Is there a different row?
VWs, I think. Yeah, not back on VWs, I think Rory Clark was a front runner in.
Right.
Not sure if he'd been in Fiestas, but possibly Minis, yeah. So front-wheel drive, hatchback type racing specialist, and BMWs, which are the exact opposite, but see my point. And he is the tail of the leading 2. 4 places gained since the start of the race, and looking to maybe gain another one here, actually peeking to the inside maybe of Matthews into the club chicane.
That's going to bug me now, I'm sure he did.
When? I don't remember.
A long time ago.
Oh really? Oh
yeah,
right.
It was Kim Hollings long ago.
Oh wow. It's a blast from the past.
Yeah. It's funny, everyone remembers him.
Everyone, yeah, well, yeah. Quite so. Leaders through.
Actually, I was thinking about digging out some of the old, because I've got some old DVDs, and I thought it might be nice for the Brscc website over the winter to get some of the older races that we did, you know, sort of 15, 20 years ago, and put them on. Remind everybody how bad my commentary has remained over 20 years.
Hardly, Richard, hardly. Yeah, no, well, the Brscc was at the forefront, really, wasn't it? A post-production TV programmes that went out on old Motors TV back in the day.
Yeah. And, goodness me, used to, you know, remember sitting on a Monday, and you've done this with Mazdas, you know, sit in the studio on a Monday and do something ridiculous like 15 races a day. Yeah.
Many a time I got home at 3 in the morning after a full day of more tiring than being at the racetrack, actually, doing it live. But good fun.
Can you do it again with a bit more feeling? Yeah, that's right.
Yes, so always difficult to do post-production commentary. I think I much prefer live. Can't strive for perfection, I certainly don't. And just have to roll with it off the cuff, which, like the drivers, they only get one shot at this. Anything goes wrong, you've got to react and respond, haven't you? And not get the chance to hit the reset button and try again. Leaders are 5 seconds clear of Aidenhill, so I'm intrigued as to where Aidenhill's pace has gone. He's now lapping in the low 3-minute 2s. Which is a couple of seconds a lap off the pace. Now, the slipstream's worth a little bit round here, but I'm not convinced it's worth 2 seconds a lap. Maybe it is, a second and a half or so. That lap was another 3:02.0, and he's in danger now of being caught by the next group of cars, which is being led again by Tom Ingram. So Tom Ingram now to 5th, has got ahead of Ryan Bensley. CMR Racing are up into 7th place as well, the 333 car. But Ryan Bensley now tucked in behind the former British Touring Car champion, and Tom Ingram taking this group towards fourth place man Aidenhill.
And this is, for me, one of the treats of this sort of racing is having Ryan Bensley, Tom Ingram, passing Aidenhill, seeing that every time.
Like I said, great yardstick for some of the top names of Club Motorsport. Aidenhill absolutely is one of those names. We haven't necessarily had the chance to make it in the big time, so to speak, but have really suspected had the pace to do so. Getting a chance to prove his worth. Yes, he's lost pace with the leaders, but still doing very well in 4th position. The group on cars was on screen, was that 5th place battle that I was just talking about. This is the leading trio. It's all very sedate still for the time being. Alpha Trojan hanging on from Scuderia Polo Rosso. JW Motorsport in third position. I wonder whether in another 23 hours time, Richard, we'll be talking about any one of these three cars contesting for the race lead. Now, I distinctly remember this from the 2 years that I've covered this event previously. At the end of the first hour, the running order often looked nothing like it did at the end of the 24th hour. Just because teams are having it all their own way right now doesn't mean that will continue throughout the race.
No, it can change. That's a big gap to those, isn't it? Yeah, I was considering the timing and the number. The number doesn't very often mean anything to actually go away, look at what's going on track, but it's a huge gap back, isn't it, from Aileen Hills to Tom Ingram at the moment. So, yeah, massive gap. But yeah, still plenty of time. I can't believe we're actually heading towards the end of the first hour, which has gone very quickly, I have to say. So Alpha Trojans, Scuderia Polo Rosso, JW Bird Motorsport, then a gap, Aileen Hills, Tom Ingram, Ryan Bensley, then the CMR Racing Par Motorsport car, which we'll see another Legends driver, Luke Simmons, having a go in a little bit later on. Luke's first go. Lovely to see him and his dad here. His dad, a former Masters champion in Legends. He's not racing, but his son is, and he enjoyed it as well. So good to see him. And might see if I can pick an interview with a couple of the Legends. Got Acres, I know them, and they'll be a little bit more forthright in terms of, you know, being open to an interview and maybe a little bit of chat. Being rude, maybe, but but also it'd be nice to get the insight from them as well.
No, absolutely. Side-by-side battle through Beckett's there, and hard to see the numbers now, isn't it, with the sun starting to set, but speed differential between those two cars. I don't know if that darker coloured machine was starting to lose a bit of pace, maybe, but easy when you get overtaken in these cars to be knocked out of your rhythm, and again, use that momentum, and then a whole queue of cars will come filing through pretty quickly. Beneath the bridge, down the Hanger Straight, towards the braking zone at the bottom of it, Stowe Corner, where you really fling these cars into the right-hander. It's a slightly uphill entry to the corner, which can allow you to carry a bit more speed into the turn. And, it's the 378 car that was losing that position at the top end of the straight. 378 being Team MKD's Matt Liam, Carl Helgeson, David Birch and Simon Waterfall. And they're about to lose another place, maybe, are they? 315 looking to the outside. That is the Emax Racing machine of Nick Payne, Hayden Payne and Callum Miller.
Is that Hayden Payne?
No, I believe it is Hayden Payne. Right. I only know of one.
I'm sure I asked Andrew, I said, is Hayden racing this weekend? He said no.
Oh, well, maybe there are
some. I misheard him, but just thought, well, this is a late thing, isn't it?
Well, now I'm not sure. That was an assumption on my part, I'll be honest. We can find out. We've got plenty of time to roam the pit lane and find out in a couple of hours when he brings that car in. But, yeah, big gap at the front of the field. When will Aileen Hills be reeled in by Tom Ingram, I suppose, is the question. Well, actually, on the previous lap, they matched each other. So Aileen Hills has still got decent pace on his own, hasn't he, really? He's not quite as quick as these leading three.
Yeah, and he's on his own, isn't he? Which is going to help him a great deal at the moment, so he'll probably get reeled in.
Alpha Trojan were defending the lead down the Sir Lewis Hamilton straight, but they all move back onto the racing line again. Challenging at this time of day, as I said, for us to see the numbers on the cars, but for the drivers to see where they're going as well. It is one of the challenges of a 24-hour race, of course, racing through the sunset and then the sunrise again in the morning. Visibility can be a challenge, especially when you're running this close together. I wanted to make this point during the catering race earlier on, but I just didn't have a chance because it was, the lead was changing every couple of corners. But I think it's easy for us to take for granted sometimes how difficult it is to run this close together. Okay, these cars aren't quite as quick as the catering graduates, but to run bumper to bumper like this for lap after lap, hour after hour, it takes an incredible amount of concentration. It would be very easy, I think, if mere mortals like ourselves were in the cars to run into the car in front or, you know, overslow the corner and the car behind run into you. It's not an easy thing to do to follow each other nose to tail like this. It looks a bit like they're not really trying, but it is still a real skill.
You'll be able to do this next year because you'll have your arm.
Well, yes, that is the plan.
And will have raced a multiple race-winning car.
Indeed, yes, they added their latest victory today in the Clubsport Trophy. Thank you for mentioning that, Richard. I would only join a winning team, you understand. I'm not here to make up the numbers.
Glory boy. So how about next year? So Andy McEwen in the car, and then you could do Hour in the car, Hour in the comms box, hour in the pit
That
lane.
has been suggested, yeah.
Oh, there you go.
I think that might, as has commentary from within the car, but I think that's well beyond my mental capacity.
I think it's beyond our tech.
Yeah,
Well,
well,
you can do it on the phone. You could do it on the phone now. But.
Yeah, well, there are definitely solutions. We were discussing these over dinner yesterday evening. There are possibilities, I believe. But yeah, I'd love to have a go in the C1s. They look like a lot of fun. As I said, when you've got people like Tom Ingram and Josh Cook coming in and saying that it's some of the most fun they've ever had.
It would be funny if you went out and beat Tom Ingram.
That'd be hilarious. Not going to happen, but it would be hilarious.
We'll just get him a penalty, don't worry.
There you go.
Track limits Ingram, there you go. So, oh, yeah. Drive-through penalty.
So we have updates from the lane that the 15 pitted. Oh no, we had the question asked, but not an answer yet as to why the 15 pitted. They came back out, I think, didn't they? I don't think they were in for too long. Was 15 rejoined? Yes, they're a lap down. Same driver in the car, so it's still Alec Livesley. What that pit stop was for, I don't know. They, as I said, are a lap down. Whereabouts are they on track? Are they almost 2 laps down? No, so lap and a half or so they lost. That's 5 minutes maybe in the pit lane. Rob perhaps can do a bit of digging from the Emax Motorsport garage. So, group of cars on screen, led by Tom Ingram, Ryan Bensley, second of this group. Mid 3 minute one, very rapid actually. Cars in this group about 3/10 of a second of each other. But no longer gaining on Aidan Hills, interestingly. So Aidan perhaps had just been nursing the car through a little bit and now has realised he needs to up the pace a little bit. So it's the top 3 covered by 7/10 of a second, a further 8.5 back to Aidan Hills in 4th, then 11 seconds back to that group that just went through Abbey Corner. This a 6-car group, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th positions, then another 12-second gap back to the 11th place car. And this is something that happens in C1 racing. You get these groups of cars, and sometimes quite big gaps between them, because once you lose the toe, you lose such a chunk of lap time. It will eventually start spreading out of course over the coming hours as pit stops and whatnot to break up the rhythm. But this opening 45 minutes or so running relatively drama-free, a couple of them with early issues. We've had how many cars in the pit lane already? 4 cars that have pitted with various issues. 2 of them still there.
When do you think we'll get the first sort of driver changes?
Well, like I say, 2.5 hours near enough you can do on a tank of fuel, so it will take a little while to get to that point. Probably just before we go off air, I suspect, this evening is when we will have seen our first pit stop. And of course, not necessarily driver changes at that point either. It's not unheard of for drivers to drive Austin, so long time in the car if you decide to do that, but that is sometimes the best strategy.
One of my favourite memories from 3 years ago was, as I said, that's when we did, was we signed off, and I can't remember if it was 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock or whatever time, but we signed off by the sin bin, and one of the Amigo modes, we talked about Rob Gaffney earlier, one of the Amigo cars was in the sin bin at 9 o'clock at night, or whatever time we signed off. Do you want to cover this first?
Well, there's a little bit of leaning. Who is it? 474 on the outside. Ooh, and they're still side by side into Luffield corner. So 474 is, where are they? In order 15th place. Jack Moody this is, keeping a big group of cars behind, but they kept it clean for the time being. Richard, go on, do continue.
They did, yeah. So when we signed off 3 years ago from the sin bin, Amigo Motorsport car in there, in the sin bin. When we came back on at 9 o'clock the following morning, there was an Amigo Motorsport car in the sin bin. So to all intents and purposes, it looked like it had been there 12 hours, which is weird, absolutely weird. Yeah, we should get some, just Will Gibson's told me he's hoping to go out about 8:30 for his stint. So, yeah,
that's about 3 hours, isn't it? 3 hours.
Quite a bit of running for David Drinkwater to do, but that's what you'd expect, isn't it, really?
Yes, 2 3/4 hours or so for stretching it. So it's something I think are very much in fuel save mode here at this early stage of the race. Long time to be in the car, long time to keep the concentration up. Most sort of World Endurance Championship drivers would be out of the car after 2 hours, generally. That's if they're double stinting. Not quite the same level of G-force in these cars, I grant you, but the concentration level is still high. It's a physically demanding circuit, the Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, because you are really throwing the car through those high-speed corners, lots of changes of direction, long corners as well, with constant G-forces being put upon the drivers. especially, as I said, when you're racing this close together, it is not the easiest thing to do for 2.5 hours at a time.
It's not. Another interesting fact, I think less female as well. It was interesting chatting to Carla Crocombe from Safety Rocks with F4, now bringing females in, also got Kate Edwards, who is a fantastic ambassador for females in motorsport. From the karting fraternity, people tell you there are a lot more girls coming on track now. And you can go to some kart places where it's actually 50-50, which is really encouraging to hear. Like the Shepherds, I think the Red Sky Racing, we've got Rachel Shepherd, haven't we? Is that the only two?
Possibly.
Not that we should be making a big issue out of it, but I just raised the point because I think probably there were more last time. Well, we had the all-girl team last time.
Well, yes, but then we had more cars last year, I suppose.
Yeah.
So, you know, stands to reason if we were to double the grid, probably see a few more of them. 387, by the way, gearbox change. Don't know if you covered this. Rob Lewis sent us info on that car. That car, one of the two that's still in the pit lane, 387 and 342. Gearbox change for that car. That was the smoky car that was leaking oil over the circuit.
Well, that's a change for Josh Watts, Jack Watts, George Foxlow.
Yes.
Ben Doughty.
Yeah,
James
Fiesta Junior Brigade, yeah.
I did threaten Tim Foxlow with an interview earlier on.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. And he was up for it, to be fair. Tim's a good lad.
Good stuff. So, 2 cars in the pit lane, 40 of them still circulating. And still, I believe, 37 cars on the lead lap as we settle ourselves in. JW Bird Motorsport, by the way, already had the fastest lap of the race. They've just been quicker again at 2:59.795. We're nearly an hour in already, Richard, would you believe? And the lap times are certainly amongst those top 3 keep getting quicker. All 3 of them were in the 59th last time around. As that fuel load burns and the car gets lighter, the tyres aren't necessarily wearing at the same rate, and so the cars do get quicker and quicker throughout the course of a stint, and it looks as though maybe the JW Bird car on course to improve upon that fastest lap once again.
It's looking good, isn't it? I say the top 3 running very well. There's up. Here's the Brscc boys, 4:10.
Where are they? They were about 32nd, I think, last time I checked.
Yeah, not on the lead screen, which is huge. We've got a huge lead screen here, but they're not on that.
You have to be doing really badly if you're not on the top screen of the timing screen. Well, they're 31st.
Have they overtaken someone?
I think they've just taken 30th. I think that's Emax's 343, is it? They've just gone past. So wait for it, Richard. I think this time they will appear on page 1 of the timing screen. Drum roll, everyone. Cross the line they will go. And, oh, come on, it's really not worth this amount of build-up. There we go. 30th place for the 410. And Andrew Schofield has got them onto page 1.
One of the best 2 drivers in the team.
Yeah, enjoy it now. This might be as good as it gets.
If they hand over to Charlie, they could get in the top 20. You know, so.
Yeah, very good point. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm going to get such a stick from Paul, Greg, and Luke.
Well, I do anyway, so I'm very little to lose, if I'm honest, Richard. At this point, I'm all in.
And where's Peter Daly, actually, while we mention it?
Yes.
Where
he would be the platinum driver in that lineup, wouldn't it? Oh, yes.
Well done, there's no excuse. No excuse.
Yes, the air miles that man racks up over the course of a year. Right then, so after that excitement, what's next? Well, they're 3 abreast into Abbey. That's pretty exciting. We've seen this group of cars doing battle pretty much all race. It's that 15th place group, I think, isn't it, with Jack Moody. In fact, I think it might now be battling, Jack Moody, we've got Lucas in the RPE Lusso car, DSC Motorsport in this group as well, all battling over position about halfway down page 1 of the timing screen. As we inch towards the end of the opening hour of the race, a pretty drama-free opening hour, it must be said. And about a third of the way probably through, well, just over a third of the way through this opening stint for most of the teams. Those who have had to pit, though, if they've been able to get back out on track quickly, might be able to build their strategy around this early pit stop. That will be the last that we see of some of those that have had early troubles. Green machine here with the sort of Italian flag on the 474 of the Musso car. Was 17th at the start of the lap, he's 15th now. Try and keep hold of that position, 5-3-1. Started the lap 16th and still is 16th, so they've got a complete swap around those regards. As they head onto the main straight once again. Nose to tail, very much the order of the day. 23 hours, 4.5 minutes remain. What have we learned in the first hour of the race, do we think? I mean, it's very easy to look at the top end of the timing screen and say, well, yeah, there are your three contenders. One of those three cars is going to win the race. I don't think it's going to be quite that straightforward.
No, I think you're right. Yeah, what have we learned? We haven't heard from Rob yet. He's had an hour.
That's true, yeah.
No one's thrown a cup at us to tell us that Rob wants to. What was that? Oh, right, okay. I won't disagree with you, but
yes, I'm sure he's scouring.
He is working hard. He's prowling.
Prowling, good work.
He's the toaster prowler.
I read that in the newspaper.
For any young people watching, newspapers are like the internet. They used to be printed out on paper and you could buy them from a shop.
Yes, don't see them these days, do you? I think the youngsters get all of their news on TikTok these days.
TikTok?
So I've heard.
You sounded that's sort of the way Ian Titchmarsh would have said it. Well, he's got TikTok. Do you think Ian Titchmarsh has got a TikTok account?
I find that very hard to believe. I don't think he
I love listening to Ian Titchmarsh. I really do. He's a
voice of my child.
Absolutely.
And the reason that I decided I wanted to become a commentator when I first went to a race meeting in 1998, Ian Titchmarsh was the commentator at Alton Park, and I heard his voice resonating as only his voice can across the Cheshire countryside. I thought, yeah, that's the job for me.
It's difficult, isn't it, with all the stuff. I mean, I've just literally been picking up my phone. I've been on Messenger, I've been on Facebook, I've been on email, and I've been on normal text.
Yeah.
Just have it all in one place.
I know.
And same with social media. Someone's going to come up with an app. They're going to go on Dragon's Den, and they'll say, "I've got a thing that merges all of them into one."
Yeah.
I kind of borrowed the money, and Deborah Meany goes, "It's not green. I'm not doing that. I'm out." Nod.
Yeah, I might not pitch that. No, you've not convinced me there, I'm afraid, Richard. But yeah, there was a time when we wouldn't get any of this information at all. So I suppose information overload is better than nothing.
How did we get there?
So answers in the YouTube comment section if anyone's still listening to us.
Have you got that open?
No, I haven't. No, I don't make a habit of that. I find that is a dangerous thing to do. There's sometimes some sense in there, but there's also a lot of people think they can do a better job than us, and quite frankly, they probably could. Change for position there. Jack Moody losing a place again, and it just keeps toing and throwing, doesn't it? This battle is for 15th. It might as well be for the race lead. It's the 383 car this, 393 car this time. It's gone back to the front of this group. They were 17th at the start of the lap. They're going to be 15th, I believe, by the end of it. The red machine. Another 5-car train here coming across the timing line. Completing their 19th lap of the race. So
I think we were talking about what we'd learned in the hour.
Oh, we were, sorry. Very unlike us to go off on a tangent, Richard.
Well, yeah, well, me especially. 23 hours and 1 minute to go. So what do we do to celebrate the hour? Do we have a glass of water?
Could have some cake, maybe, if there's any left. Oh, there is a cake left. Good. We were delivered some lovely sugary snacks before the race begun, and I haven't had a chance to sample.
And who were they from?
I believe, I don't actually know who they came from, to be honest. They just appeared in front of me, as food often does.
It's like what their name was.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It might have been Luke. Might have been Luke. I don't know.
I've got to thank the Hosey family for food earlier on.
Yes.
Very, very generous.
So, yeah, we're well looked after at this event, I have to say. That's always the way. It's one thing I really do like about this event. Everyone looks out for each other, don't they? Not that the Brscc and motorsport community in general don't normally, but at an event like this, I really do feel.
Well, they're busy racing for one thing.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, that's true.
Great to see Charlotte back this weekend.
Good to have Charlotte back in the fold. Yeah, definitely. We missed her in the first few rounds. She got off to pursue other things, but a lot of people do this. I remember Antoine from the Brscc who left and pursued a very exciting career, something to do with football, tracking football players on a pitch, or I don't know. He lost me at the word football. But anyway, he still comes back every now and again to help at things like the festival, and he's been back at this event before as well. So
it says a lot about the club.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was a real family feel to be honest.
If you're watching this and you just want to get involved, you can just do it as a supporter. I did it for a few years, and they wrote me into events and stuff like that. But just get involved as a supporter, come along, watch the races, and actually even better than that, I think we're still looking for championship coordinators, which is great. And we've got some really good Andrew Payne is a great new championship coordinator.
Yep.
Lindsay was looking after the Brscc event earlier on. He's fantastic, and you can learn so much from watching those guys do it.
No, absolutely. They're all so enthusiastic as well. I'm more than happy to welcome new people into the fold. Sometimes when you get a really close-knit group of people who are very used to working with each other, it can be a bit intimidating sometimes to come into that group as an outsider. Not the case with the CC to have you on board. If you've got a sense of humour and a willingness to work and a passion for motorsport, then this is the place for you.
Just remember the Rory, Bob. Rory?
Oh, right. Yes. Oh, I see.
That's where I was getting me head muddled, so we cleared that one up. Right. Eventually. We got there in the end.
It took half an hour.
Holly on Red Dwarf used to say that. I might be slow, but I get there in the end. If you used to watch that.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I know a bit Red Dwarf, yeah. Right, we're into the second hour. We have had a new fastest lap set once again. This time by Alpha Trojan, who are third. Shows we've been paying attention. It's all changed at the front of the field. Scuderia Polo Rosso lead, JW Bird second, Alpha Trojan third, but have just set the fastest lap, so make sense of that. All change at the head of the field. Still only half a second covering those leading three, but our third lead change, I believe that is, of the race. And all of them between Alpha Trojan and Scuderia Polo Rosso. JW Bird Motorsport have been just keeping a watching brief, but this is the highest they've run. Alpha Trojan have not yet fallen outside of the top two until a lap or so ago. So Alpha Trojan then slipping down to third position. We are able now, I believe, to head down to the pit lane and have a chat with Rob Lewis. Rob, who have you found?
Well, guys, you're right. I have been on the prowl. I've been having a good chat to everyone around the paddock, and unfortunately, BPC Motorsport have had an absolute nightmare. Car number 387, the black car in the distance, is currently going through a gearbox change after it lost the contents of its all. That was a smoky car that you saw earlier on in the show, so that's lost the contents of its gearbox and literally blown the gearbox to smithereens. James Riley was at the wheel of that, and unfortunately, the little C1 was too much power for Andrew Schofield. He's detonated the bottom end of the engine on that. He's brought the car in. Of course, this is the Brscc headquarters car. We were expecting a top three finish, as is the standard from the Brscc headquarters. And when you've got drivers like Paul McCurlin, Greg Graham and co to come, and Luke Souch, the car was going to get a lot of punishment anyway. But their driver coach, Charlie Snell's assured me they'll get the engine changed and hopefully they'll get some fast lap times out of the drivers. All very tongue-in-cheek, of course. But I'm going to go and sleuth a bit more. I'm going to find some driver interviews. But for now, back to our commentary team.
Sleuth. He's a sleuth. He's
yes.
not the, what was it we said, prowler. He's a sleuth. It's a bit better, it's a bit more PC, isn't it?
Yes.
I'm sure he prefers to be sleuth. So we'll do that. Silverstone sleuth.
Silverstone sleuth. The C1 sleuth, Rob Lewis.
Very literative like that.
Yeah, so that's a shame though for the Brscc car.
I think second engine. I think they had the engine out when I was there earlier on, because I went up and said, "Who gunned it then?" And they wouldn't, because they knew it was going to be a Mickey tape.
Of course.
That's a shame, because if they're not out there, we can't rid them, can we?
Yeah, well, they'll get back out there. I'm sure they'll persevere.
It just means that we might have a visit from one of them up here.
I heard what you were saying about us when I was out there.
Should we do a notice on the door, non-ops people?
Yes. No, absolutely a good idea. Well, for one shining moment, they were in the top 30. Sadly, that's no longer the case. But anyway, we are into the second hour of the race. Some changing going on here in that second group, by the way. I noticed Ryan Bensley getting shuffled back slightly there. He had got himself back ahead of Tom Ingram for fifth. I think he's seventh now as they head down the back straight and into a little bit of traffic potentially. So some lapped cars starting to come into play. And as they round the right-hander at Stowe Corner, this is now when things start to get doubly complicated and lap times can really start to get a bit all over the place. Emax Motorsport, no, that can't be right. A 2-minute 47? I don't think so. That's 13 seconds faster than anyone else has been. I think that might be a glitch, something tells me. Or they've had a massive shortcut somewhere. That's the car who has got a... Oh, dodgy transponder off at Club goes. Is that 397 into the Silverstone International pit lane. That was a touch in the braking zone. And 387, it must be BPC. Oh, 597. No, I'll get there in the end. 597, cartwheel capers. And they are taking a drive-through penalty down the Silverstone International pit lane. I hope the pit lane exit is open, otherwise they'll have to do a U-turn and head back up the pits. But that was a dramatic moment into the club chicane.
A bit scary, wasn't it?
So it could have been worse. Could have been much worse. That all happened whilst this fifth-place battle was going through to put a lap on them as well. Right then, we are into the second hour of the race. Scott Woodward has appeared in the commentary box. I believe it's time for me to hand over the headset to Scott to talk you through the next hour alongside yourself, Richard. But I'm going to go and have a wander up pit lane, I think, see what I can find out, and back for another hour or so before we go off air. And
thanks for the first hour.
Very welcome. Right, Scott, over to you.
Don't crash, see you back.
So Scott just flicking himself in and on. Welcome. Thank you to the 24 hours.
Yes, we keep it down to the last hour a bit watching on, and try not to put too much music to myself, but in and outside the commentary.
Treading on my headphone cable.
Yeah, thanks for saying that publicly. No, all good. It's been the typical frantic first hour and a bit, as you would expect in the Brscc 24 hours. And still this solid leading trio at the front. Scuderia Polarossa, who are now in the lead. So good to see the team, Brscc team, on out at the top of these times.
It's an avian 1-2, isn't it? Because you've got JW Bird in second position.
It is an avian 1-2. JW Bird up in second position.
I can't think of an avian connection to Alfred Trojan at the moment, but if you give me long enough, as I said with the Holly impersonation, I'll get there at the end. Are you a Red Bull fan?
I watched occasionally little bits. Yeah, not huge. Yeah, when it comes to comedy of that era, I was more things like Shooting Stars and the Fire Show. So, they were all my kind of bag. I was allowed to stay up. I was allowed to stay up as a kid in the on like a Friday or Saturday night to watch those because my parents knew I enjoyed those shows. Oh yes. This battle's still going on. This six-pack still going on, battling over 5th backwards to 10th. This is OPCPR with Tom Ingram at the wheel. It's either Jake or James Little who is battling away in the 346 Emax car. Then you have the Euro car parts machine with Ryan Bensley. Bacon Racing with Liquid Molly, that's Sandra Proietti. Chris Diamond in the CMR Par Motorsport car, and then it's Max Walsh, I think it is, in the WRC developments with CB Auto Services on that one. Now, I think for the first time we can actually head down to pit lane and hear from our esteemed colleague Rob Lewis. So, Rob, down to you for the first time in this 24-hour race. Who do you have and for what?
Okay, so down in the pit lane with the Army Motorsport team. I like it when we get different teams come in, especially to the 24-hour race. Now I've got Ted, team manager of Army Motorsport. First of all, this programme for you guys, what does it mean to you?
So Army Motorsport have been operating for about 10 years or so. We operate across several different championships, and an opportunity came across to us about 12 months ago when Josh, a new member of the team, and his dad bought us a C1 purely to race in this event. Through our funding channels, we've essentially managed to get us here, pay for the entry and all the other bits and pieces using their car. We've got 4 embedded drivers from within the team who bring some experience and some coaching because they are still novices, and they're popping their cherry at this very first race, so this is a fantastic event for them.
You've had your share of issues in testing.
Yeah, we had a few.
What happened?
So testing for the most part went okay, but we had an issue with the lighting boards. We lost about 30 minutes in the night practice, but apart from that, everyone got a good stint. We had a good quality time, which put us back mid-pack as well. So for our first stint on 24 in this car, pretty happy.
Fantastic. Now, I love a bit of military humour. I don't know about you. Let's have a look at this job. But any good team has a job board here. Ted, talk us through it.
Number 1 and number 2, do not crash. You know, we all know an endurance race is all about finishing reliably and just getting the car safely over the line. We're not here to take any chances, any big risks. Our primary aim of this race is to finish with mostly straight panels on the car.
And number 3?
Just can't reiterate it enough. We just want to finish this race with a nice clean car as best as we can. So hopefully we can achieve 1 and 2, maybe not 3, but we'll give it a go.
Okay. Well, that's the hat-trick of objectives there for the Army Motorsport team. But in all seriousness, Ted and the team have been doing a fantastic job this weekend. The car looks really good. The problem is you can't really see it because it's in camouflage. A shame, really, but if you do see a set of floating headlights out there, Richard and Andy, that might be the Army Motorsport car. But for now, I'll hand back to you and I'll grab some more interviews.
Also can't see the camouflage colour bunting in the pits as well because you can't see it. The camouflage colour. Maybe that was the car that was on the grid when we were doing the Emperor's New Car earlier on. We were talking about invisible cars.
But perhaps, I guess for nickname, we should call that car John Cena.
Yeah,
because you can't see it. If you're a wrestling fan, you know exactly what that means.
Now that was an interesting little segment that he did there. Richard Hall was out in the car at the moment, by the way, and we could, if you were eagle-eyed as I was looking at the chart, fascinating little whiteboard there, and they've even got. I was hoping we were going to get a closer look at it, but they've got a sleep chart on there because it's an important part. You can't be staying there 24 hours. It's not the healthiest thing to do. And I noticed that they've got, I think the top one was Premier Inn, so they've just got down the A43, half a mile down to the Premier. So if you're in the Premier Inn tonight, yeah, army people bumping around, you know what's going on.
Yeah, I'm not getting alerted at 3:30 in the morning. Looking at our scrap here, this is 474. This is the RP Lusso car, Jack Moody at the wheel. This is the battle that's going on for 15th place downwards. They're having a scrap with the teammates in there as well, in car 3, the DSC Motorsport car 531, and also the Burton Power Racing team 337, who are in many cases more versed in racing cars similar to this than the Ford persuasion. But there's nothing to see why they've not looked very much like the era. This is the 2 finish rep going to 2000. Because the red stripe down the middle. I think that's.
Burton Power for me, Scott, I mean, goes back. You're me and whippersnapper, a youngster. Burton for me was my introduction to that was Barry Lee in Rallycross.
Oh yeah.
And we're talking. He was actually before Rallycross Hot Rods in '72. I think he went for a Burton first of all. I can use that phrase. That's why he used to sell the adverts as well. Barry's gone for a Burton. And they were highly successful with him. I mean, he won in the proper years of Hot Rods. He was set the bench 4 world championships. Many of them from the back of the grid because he used to draw them, public draw for the not a reverse grid race, didn't then reverse it. Anytime he got drawn off the back. Anyway, so Burton, wonderful to see him still involved in that. I think it's the next generation now, but very much for me a proper name in motorsport. So good to see those guys out there.
It is. Top 20 side by side with the 393 Lusso car. Alex Lucas in that car with Michael LaRusso, the man who's put the engines together for us. But also Jarls Piotr Nielsen, who's Briggs in that car. And the Burton car, which is up there in the mix in car 337, is Andy Burton sharing with Tommy Valentine, Stephen Gilbert, Carl Sager and Ben Hicks. And so at the moment in that car, we see who exactly it is Carl Sager who's in the middle of that car in the first stint.
Yeah, plenty of time to go before, well, probably an hour and a half or so before we start thinking about driver changes. I mentioned Will Gibson had messaged me and said he was going in 8:30. It's not cast in tablets of stone, is it, even at this stage? There might be a rough idea of when they want to go in, but I'm wondering how you communicate that. I mean, do you know if there are radios and or is it pitboard or just sort of loose plans?
You've got most of the pitboards. There is what's called a race seeker system on these cars, like a one-way radio to the teams, and they can tell them pretty much what's happening in terms of communicating to the drivers when there's faultless yellow, or a safety car, or something like that, or something really right about. I did hear it in action last night because I think we were going to go into the night practice, and I did hear night practice going to qualifying, one of the two. I did hear something over the radio from the race control saying at the time, track going right for qualifying in 30 seconds. So it's a clear one-line communication to the drivers, and it's concurrent. So when the control hits the button, you go through to all cars to kind of make sure they understand what's going on, and be clear on the messages they're trying to send. But the message that's trying to be sent here is that going too much rather than Carl Sagan's going to feel like he's fancy going time on 3 of them. He darts back to the racing line to hold him when he is in 18th position.
He's done me dirty there.
Spreading out on the wall. You can see from now he's back to two separate sort of kind of siphon off into packs of 2, 3, 4, 5 cars, having a little bit of battles. These early cars were that's the quintet of John Stack, Alan Brown, Sam Brown, Mark Donaldson and James Crossland. 547 at the moment currently has Alan Brown at the wheels. He was the man that started that machine. Just keep an eye on still the top three less than just over half a second between them. In fact, all of them set effective personal best in the second sector, quickest of which was the fastest sector 2 of the race so far by Chris Freeman. So he's now going to further back on the top 2 once again. They have been quite consistently quicker than Aidan Hills and Hashtag Brescc, which is slightly surprising, given that Aidan was quite close to the video stage in the first hour, but has now dropped back by about 15 seconds or so. And he from 6, which is the Emax car, which now we get the James and Jake, it says Jake on the screen, but doesn't quite exactly tell us if it's James and Jake, which is helpful. But one of the littles is in that car in 5th position, 4th position. No, he's 5th, because just taking that from Tom Ingram. So that's another group of cars that's been circulated for quite a while together. So that's another trio that's kind of locked in battle. You've got Emax, OPCPR, and then the Euro Car Parts car, which is Ryan Bensley at the wheel. But that's the car that's also been piloted throughout this race by Josh Cook, by Jade Edwards, and also by Aidan Moffat, as well as on top of that, Sylvain Rubio, who is, I guess, kind of a sleeper in the pack, but not for he's quick. He is very quick, and so I think as Rob Lewis alluded to, he's essentially the reason why Josh Cook started going to C1 doing this and bringing Jade in, and a couple of the touring car drivers have been racing these cars years ago when they were first getting into the C1 racing was first one thing becoming popular, and when they held one of the first ever C1 24-hour races at Spa, I think it was the year when they absolutely tipped it down the road. So they were literally crawling around Spa at barely 30 miles an hour, so in what looked like monsoon conditions when they were crawling around. It was absolutely, some of the photos from that, from a magazine article, some of the photos from that weekend. I think we'll find them on Google in a moment, just have a quick look and see if we can find that weekend. But it was just such a wet week. You think it was wet for Spa, and then it was like beyond that. It was unbelievable. Right, I think we have our first proper penalty of the race. Car 597 will be giving a 10-second stop go penalty for not tagging out. This is tagging out properly, which is introduced to 597.
Cartwheel Capers, who saw going through the international circuit.
We did.
They're not having a lot of luck.
No, but there's a part of me that thinks hopefully there wasn't a timing beam of some kind down at the bottom end of the F1 pit lane, and it thinks it hasn't tagged out the pit lane properly. I presume they have just come in and had something checked over, and then in the rush just either forgotten to tag or tried to tag and it not worked properly.
Do you have to tag every time you go out, or is it just if you're changing driver?
As far as I'm aware, at the very least, I think for as a precaution, I think everyone probably does tag out.
It's one for Rob, actually, isn't it?
Just to make sure. Yeah, I'm sure that he might explain that system if he goes at some point down to the end of the pit lane. It shows us it shows for those who haven't seen it before the tag system and how it works. But to give you an audible description of it, essentially it's like a big sort of infrared sensor, all like a white sort of square pad with a sensor on it. Yeah. And each car, each driver in each team has what's called a key tag. It's almost like a wristwatch type sort of bracelet on their wrist. That each of those, each key tag is connected to a driver. So essentially you list your license number or your membership number or anything that you first need to go towards it. And then every single time there's a driver change, this is from X to pits. You go to the end of the pit lane, you go up to the white kind of square sort of patch like sensor that's kind of laid up with laid up. You put your arm out as in towards it to try and signal it, and when the light goes from red to green, that's when the system is twigged that someone is tagging out, as it's called, out of the pit lane. And there are some teams that do tend to either forget in a hurry because they're just getting out of the pit lane if they've had a stop and they're battling somebody, or they try to tag and it doesn't work properly. Because of that, you can get a penalty for not tagging out properly or not tagging out at all. So that's the reason why car 597, which is Cartwheel Capers, who had that excursion into the Grand Prix pits momentarily, that car, not for that reason, I'd like to think, but they're now coming in for a 10-second stop go penalty, not for tagging out. So they will stop in the penalty box at the top of the pit lane, which you may have seen briefly earlier if you're watching the Brit car race. It's pretty much exactly the same sort of penalty box at the top. They'll stop there for 10 seconds, count them back out again, and then try and tag it. You might get it across.
we were having a look at Brscc racing a few moments ago, dicing with Emax Motorsport 15 with, and apologies to Andy if he's listening. I think I said it was Livesley. It is Livesley, he's absolutely right, so I got that one wrong. Because I've been writing it down incorrectly for years, so apologies to Alec and the team. I think Emax Motorsport trying to unlap themselves. Oh, here we are, back with them. Directors have picked up. Wonderful job by our directing team here to pick up what we're talking about. I'm surprised they're still awake listening to me, to be perfectly honest with you, after an hour and a half, but there we are. Well, an hour and 20 minutes. So I think this is an unlap, Scott, if it can be done.
Yeah, and just for those who are wondering if that car is a tiny bit different and from the other cars from Leeds, that car is running in a different class. It's running in the City Car Cup class. Now, those who like the City Car Cup, it's a championship which was designed and was kind of launched initially as a series, ironically, of all times, during the pandemic in 2020, which somewhat I thought was bizarre. But it's turned to be one of the most popular championships in the Brscc's roster. They essentially use in that championship three cars which are all the same mechanically underneath, and were all built in the same factory in the Czech Republic. The Citroen in the first generation, the Citroen C1, the Peugeot 107, and the Toyota Aygo. Now, you see a Citroen C1 here. This is actually quite a perfect example. You've got a C1 endurance spec car and a City Car Cup car. It's the only City car in the field that is running in its own class. The difference is really mainly to do with...
Presumably winning its class as well.
Well, yes, it will, unless it retires, in which case there will be no finishers. But the difference is mainly because it sits there as the car. It runs on the bespoke gas shock suspension. It's a City Car Cup spec kit that goes on it. It also has Powerflex bushes on it to help. And those two pieces, along with the sticky and Nankang tyres it uses, and all the cars that the City Car Cup and all the others that may have raced in this would have had to be compliant with 2025 City Car regulations. Essentially means that these cars, the differences are, it will run some sticky and Nankang tyres, it will run the championship spec gas shocks and also the Powerflex bushes. It also has a back box exhaust on there as well. There's also, I think, a championship into UMAP as well that goes into it too, supplied by Hybrid Tune. And those are the main differences. So ultimately where you might see the City car, kind of the C1 endurance cars more leaning into the corners on their suspension, because this is lower and much more tauter, tighter and stiffer suspension on the City cars, they tend to stay pretty kind of straight and true and flat. And I actually had the joy of driving a City car for the first time here during my racing last November in the dry, because my first drive ran the year before in BMW Super Cup car was in the wet. So in the dry, and the City car genuinely is like a big go-kart. It's brilliant. I can just chuck it into the corners, and even though I was told, you've got to be careful not to lift off too much in the back when it's flipping around, it felt stable already. It felt nice and stable, nice and taut, nice how it should be, and it was a nice, simple car to drive, quite fun. You could just push it as hard as you wanted to, and pretty much drive it. There's a reason why, for the first round that we had at Silverstone, we basically sold out for 45 cars. And then the next one coming up is going to be pretty much a sold out one again, but it's 34 spots or something along those lines, or 38 at Alton Park, which is a convenient problem to have when you have a champion that popular. So that's why that car is slightly different. You also notice it's running a slightly different number to everything else, because I think I had this question asked earlier on. It's running car number 15, and that's because it's the number that car would run if it was in the City Car Cup. The reason why it's not running a triple number car is, one, it's in a different class, and two, with the C1s, from what I understand from my member Rob Tuttle from Robin Welsh, is that when the UK C1s went over to compete in, I think the C1 started for the first time, their number designation started, I think, to define the class, it started from 300. So as a nod to that, as a hark back to that, and as a dedication to that, any City car race that you'll see, C1 endurance race that you'll see, all the cars in terms of all the numbers that you'll see start basically from 300 up until 500 and something.
I think it was the UK one started at 300, was it?
Yes.
I remember.
It was the UK class at the C1 24 Hours at Spa would have numbers starting from 300 to help designate them properly. So that's been carried on as a legacy. That's the word I was looking for. A legacy of and tribute to having been racing that for the first time. Let's do that instead. So that's the difference in the numbers, because number 15 is a completely different class and slightly different spec to the C1s, because it is a City car, not a C1 endurance car. And the final point I'll very quickly make is that City Car Cup cars have raced endurance races. They have done been in their own class in the Race of Remembrance a couple of times. So they have done a combined 12-hour race. It's the first time we've ever seen a City Car Cup car in a full-on 24-hour race. Of course, he's had his teething troubles and his issues so far in early stages, but still fighting, still giving the 4-3-2 car a push down the back straight, and I'm sure we'll try and ride his way up to the order.
That's a great shot, actually, of him coming down the straight, so fair play to him. cameraman's picking that up. The other thing I was going to say about City Car Cup, if we can just talk about that, it's very similar. It's got a great tie-in, of course, with this 15 car. Is the Student Motorsport Challenge, which runs within that as well. So that is not necessarily, it's a way of getting colleges, universities, places of education involved in motor racing. And a lot of people think, oh, it's like Formula Student, where it's all student. It doesn't have to be. The existing drivers, many good existing drivers have paired up with learning institutions. So we've had championship winning drivers doing it. So you don't have to, as a student, if you're watching this and you're a lecturer or you're a student at college and you want to get involved or look at getting involved, you can just bring a handful, just for starters, you can bring a handful of students down who are interested in getting involved that way. It doesn't have to be the complete team, which is absolutely brilliant. JP Latham, I know, will do that. And he's a man with his head screwed on, JP. He really knows what he's doing with it. And it's grown very, very strongly over the last couple of seasons. And, you know, I see that being a standalone before too long, because it's getting bigger. Every time I talk to a college outside of the racing industry, so in my other work, if I talk to people at a college, did you know no, I didn't know that, I'm going to investigate it. And also, when you're talking to people in other areas, you know, you get a heck of a lot of students that come through things like the Fiesta Scholarship, for example. Many of them don't know about it. The Geneta Scholarship back in the day didn't know about Student Motorsport Challenge. It's a very, very good way of the colleges getting involved.
There's a slight name change, so it's more like a Student Motorsport competition or contest. There was some bits and pieces that changed on that name, so I think it's just more pre-referred to just as Student Motorsport. But you're absolutely right with that. It's a great incentive for, as you say, educational institutes. So it's not just universities, study colleges, or in the case of one of the teams, the Ethelbert, it's a single team of and they're up there, you know, challenging for student motorsport wins and even getting up there to try and win races outright. So it's quite strong. And the interesting thing was that I think on one of the races at Snetterton we had, I need to double check it, but we had I think it was the first, it wasn't one of the first outright wins, but we had possibly the first outright top 3 student motorsport podium, I think. I need to double check it, but they had some really strong results at the season opener at Snetterton anyway, and credited to everyone involved in that for making it such a success since that launched in 2021, I want to say, or maybe 21 or 22, one of the two. I'm getting the signal that we can throw back to Rob Lewis for the second time in the pit lane, so that's really nice, and
Okay.
Nothing. No, I'm not hearing anything. I'm not hearing anything. Go.
And as we all know, motorsport is really, really important for sponsors, and we can't function without sponsors in motorsport generally. And we always do this interview whenever we have a C1 round. I've got Robin Welsh and I've got Alan Prebble, MD of Silver Lake Automotive Recycling. Alan, you've got a pair of cars out there wobbling around like Indonesian squirrels at the moment. It's great to see. Alan, how's the weekend gone so far for you?
Yeah, it's gone really well, thank you very much. We're looking forward for the next few hours, getting in the car shortly, so getting a bit nervous.
Getting a bit nervous? Surely you should be accustomed to this by now. You've done a few of these races.
Yes, we have. We've done about 4 now, so
Season
pro, but there we go. Looking forward to getting out there and see if we can climb the order a little bit.
And talking of Silver Lake's role within motorsport, you've sponsored Paul Fullock, who was out with Team Brit earlier on, the DS3 Cup with the Brscc. How important is motorsport for a company like Silver Lake?
Well, it's very important for Silver Lake because it's part of our DNA. You know, we're hoping to support low-cost racing and keep these cars on the road sustainably and even using recycled green parts. So that's what we're up to.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for your support, Alan. And Robin, Silver Lake's role within the C1 Racing Club, so important.
Yeah, it's probably the most natural fit, I think, of any sponsorship deal, I think, in the history of motorsport, really. You know, our whole ethos is cheap racing and cheap 24-hour racing and, you know, cheap parts, recycled green, but it's part of it. It just all fits very, very well. You know, people that do this are on a very tight budget, you know, and Silver Lake supply the parts to suit that budget.
And the fact that they're only just down the road from you as well.
Very good that they're very local as well, actually. It's very convenient for me as well, yeah. I've been using Silver Lake since I was a lad. When I was 10 years old, starting in oval racing in my roots, you know, climbing around. It's a very different setup then, you know, I was climbing all over the cars in the yard. It was a couple of containers and whatnot. It's a hell of a setup down there now. It's quite impressive. But, yeah, I've been using them forever, and it's really nice. It's nice, it's local, and it fits really well for the series.
Now, Alan's about to step into the car, and you've had a taste of it this weekend. Greg builds a good car, doesn't he?
Really good car, yeah. I'm actually very, very privileged this weekend to be driving Alan's car as well, so I'm very much grateful for that, looking forward to that. And yeah, it's a really good car, really well prepared. The cars are really probably two of the nicest prepared cars on the grid, and I build race cars for a living, and I know what's a nice car, and they are very nice cars.
Brilliant. Well, Alan, Robin, thank you very much for the chat there. So, an important message, look after your sponsors and your sponsors look after you. Silver Lake have been a great sponsor for the C1 Series and the DS3 Cup. Keep a lookout for that. They're out this year with the Brscc Production Cup. Now, time to head back to the commentary team. I'm going to find some more interviews.
Thanks very much. Thanks very much for that, Rob. And a message. Sarah Dennis is watching.
Excellent.
At home, I think. She said, Can you turn you guys up because I can't hear you because of the tyres? So that's one for one for Baz and the team here. Why people want to hear us more, I don't know. But Sarah Dennis doesn't want you guys not being heard. Why is Sarah Dennis not on the track? Why hasn't Pure Track got a?
That would be interesting. Pure Track with the 24 hours.
Yeah, I think there's a project for you for next year. Mrs. Dennis.
I think they're currently nursing the mechanical issues that one of their cars had yet again. Sadly, I saw Sarah briefly in the paddock, and just Pure Track when it comes. I mentioned this in the club straight away. Pure Track these days, sadly, and I wish they had more better luck. They just get no good luck so far when it comes to racing.
It will come though. It balances out.
It will. I think they did manage to get a finish. I think in the Super Sport Endurance race at Alton Park, and I remember here at not that they'll thank you for reminding them in the same championship here at the Silverstone Opener in March. They had a wheel come off them again during the race, and they actually had to end up stopping right on the entrance to the on the pit lane entrance of the Grand Prix pits. Back in March, and they've had misfortunes the previous year in terms of club sport and other super sport and other series they've been in. But it's a great little team, Pure Track. They do try their hardest, and it's ultimately, hopefully, going to pay off in terms of some more success for them once they're finally able to work out whatever gremlins that their cars have on any given day. So fingers crossed. And again, it'd be great to see Pure Track in the mix, and I don't know, maybe we're giving Matt and Sarah Dennis and co some ideas for 2026 perhaps, but it'd be great to see possibly a Pure Track car on the grid in that side. I think just harking back also to the conversation we were having about student motorsport teams, it'd be great to see some student motorsport teams give this a go as well, because they'll be able to prepare they'll use the knowledge from preparing the city car to prepare one of these. I'm sure there's some good teams like Northbrook or Boston College Racing or QE or East Surrey or West Sussex would be happy to give us a go, or City College Norwich. I'm sure they'd love to give us a go, because it wouldn't be a car that we'd be too unfamiliar with, a slightly different specification, and I'm sure it'd be great for track time for them to also experience a longer distance race where they have a more longer weekend to work on their cars rather than just a couple of sprint races. That would be good. Interesting prospect.
And they could rope in other people in the college as well. And
yes.
A good few years since I've worked in the education side, certainly within post-16, we're saying the collective term for college and everything else, and
yes.
Stormy's post-16, but going back to that, the school that I worked at, I just did a 6-month contract and left them with a full business plan for getting involved in sport locally and involving as many departments in the school as you could with that, either curricular or extracurricular. And never did it actually, because I got taken over. It was about the time we were going over to academies, unfortunately, but the plot was still there, and it went on to the next team to do it. But there is so much that you can do as a post-16 place of education to get involved. It's not just about the engineering side. You can get involved in the media side, business studies, so many overlaps. Probably the only thing you can't involve is like the history department.
Yeah,
I think it's the only one that we couldn't get involved. Every other department at that particular school we could get involved in sport.
Unless they wanted to archive results or archive kind of different elements of things. So
yeah, I mean, there you go. Great imaginative thinking. Yeah, you could do that.
Whilst we've been talking, new fastest lap of the race set by guess who? Alpha Trojan, 2 minutes 59.257. And actually, the last few laps coming in,
The top three have been running pretty much, it must be either nose to tail or right together, because they're on the pace, really. They're all three of them lapped in the low to mid 259s last time. They're the only three cars on track right now. They're doing so. Oh, that was one of the Rowtech International cars shuffling the Gen 2 Silver Lake car wide at the loop. That was a bit of I'm sure that the Silver Lake car that was in the mix there, I think that's the 558 car that would have been, I think. That was the Alan Preble, Alan Short, Robin Welsh, Paul Dickinson car. But it felt a little bit aggrieved. There's their teammates, which is the 458 machine. So it was the Gen 2 558 charging along.
And the Gen 2 car is in G2, which is Garage 2, if you're coming to the track and having a look and want to go and find them and chat to them about that motor.
It is, yes. 458 currently 22nd, and then just behind them there, you've got, that was Rowtech International taking 24th from car 558. So that car now is up into the top 20. It's just right at the bottom of the top 25 now, whereas the Silver Lake 458 machine just trying to sneak its way up into the top 20. It can do so if it picks its way past these three cars, one of which is one of the JW Bird machines, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, it is. That's 449. And 449 currently has at the moment at the wheel of its Kieran Griffin. I think he's the son of Liam Griffin, who's had lots of experience in British GT and British touring cars, and Kieran himself has done plenty of racing in his own right, so it's good to see that the Griffin family are keeping on. There is also a second Griffin in that car as well, which I think possibly might relate to Oliver Griffin. I don't know if there's a younger brother of Kieran, perhaps. I wonder if Rob's listening, if we can figure out if there's a family tree there, if it's Oliver simply Kieran's brother, perhaps. They're also sharing that car with Jordan Robertson, and Jordan, some of the research I was doing, he actually made his debut in C1s back at Snetterton last year, and he's previously worked for Team Parker Racing in the Spring Cup, in the Porsche Sprint Challenge. I think currently he's now working with Stella Motorsport, because they're now doing GTs on the continent in their brand new Corvette GT3. So it's good to see the C8 GT3. So I saw some stuff on his social media channels and doing some research. But Kieran has got tons of experience in almost everything, not just C1s, but also Brit car. He's done a bit of TCR UK. He's done 24-hour series, TCR Middle East as well. Done the British GT Championship, VW Racing Cup, and the Aston Martin GT4 Challenge. So he's quite versed in endurance and sprints on that side. 597 into pit lane. So 597 is cartwheel capers once again. So certainly plenty of capers, but maybe not all positive for them. They're back in after they had their stop-go penalty. So whatever the issue is for them, I have to wait and see. So that commitment to pits are going on. We haven't seen any proper pit stops yet. So as you can see, everyone pretty much in the top 30 has not made what you call a scheduled stop yet. He's not made any stops whatsoever. So that's still to come, I guess, within the next roughly, I'm guessing, hour or so, based on how other pit stop strategies go. We're looking at one of the other BPC car in the field, which is the 387. That's the Jack and Josh Watts with James Riley, and then the two Fiesta Junior graduates, George Foxler and Ben Doughty.
Well, that had a change, didn't it? It wasn't. It was a gearbox change, wasn't it? So that was quick in stint one when I was with Andy.
Oh, car off the road. That is the JW Bird car. That's the 449 car that we were just looking at, which was that's what we've just been talking about with Kieran Griffin. So, you'll like the commentator's curse if you want.
Griffin is avian as well. A Griffin is a Welsh, isn't it? A mythical bird, so that's mythical avian.
Yes, it is. Yes, yeah, it's got wings, isn't it? So yes, you'd call that avian in that sense. 586 was the one that was in earlier on, I think, towards the beginning of the race with its own issues. That's now appears to be back out. Look at my notes that I've put in so far. Yeah, that was the car that had the loose radiator cap in the opening laps. Had to come in to get that sort of fixed and reattached. There's the Silver Lake 458 machine, which has got the recovering WRC Developments car behind it. And 587 at the moment is quite far back. Where is it currently at the moment?
So Robbie Welsh is in two, isn't he? 458 and 558.
Yes, he's listed down for both of the Silver Lake cars, so he can jump into either one, I suppose, at any time, which is, I guess, quite fitting if he wants to do that. That is 586, so right down the bottom. After issues.
Yeah, that's the one that.
Yes, they are.
Had Will Gibson did tell me had a cap off.
Yeah, that's the radiator cap that came through. So that's currently sitting at the moment in 35th position. So what
Sarah Dennis says the sound is spot on now. Thank you, Sarah. Hope you're well. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, Sarah Dennis checking our sound levels there to make sure they are tip top. So yeah, that WRC Developments car, that's the one with David Drinkwater. Well, that's a shame because that was one of the cars I was tipping to be possibly a dark horse. And that seems to be the story with WRC Developments and their team, is that they get themselves into a good position. Well, didn't have a chance to do that in this first hour. But they always seem to have something that goes on or is up and causes them to just fall back and have issues or have a problem. I think the last couple of times we've had the 24 hours, they've been in a solid position to be within the top 5 or the top 10. Either a mechanical issue or an incident that's put them back down the order. And now they barely got themselves an hour into the race, and they've had issues where they've had to kind of replace the radiator cap. That's kind of left them at the moment about 2 laps down at the moment, which is a shame. There's still obviously plenty of time to try and recover that if they can, because other teams can have other dramas, they can climb up the order, and I'm certain they're one of the fastest cars out there in the field. I mean, yeah, if you look at the lap times now, the last lap for them was a 3 minutes 1.122, and you have to look pretty much until round about the lower half of the top 20 before you start seeing cars that are on the same sort of pace as they are. The faster teams at the moment in terms of last laps that they're all doing well, actually, they are probably one of the fastest cars out at the moment. And incredibly, talking about fast, the leaders are now dipped somehow to 2:58. They go even quicker now. Both Scuderia Polo Rosso, who has now just taken the fastest lap of the race, and Alpha Trojan are both into the 2:58. And JW Bird, the now erstwhile race leaders, have also gone very close. They've done a 2:59.046, but they have done a 2:58.9. So that pace being set by the first 3 cars at the front, still half a second separating them, is pretty electric between the 3 of them. We'll have to see possibly a shot of them together if we can at some point. As we see the David Drinkwater car still circulating. I think they've got 585 for company as well. That's the other Emax Motorsport car, the Wombles, shall we say. And that's 458 Silver Lake chasing after 547. That's past the RPE Lusso machine. That RPE Lusso car in particular, 547, currently has, I think it's John Stack at the wheel. No, it's Alan Brown. That's it, it's Alan Brown. They're having a duel between the pair of them. So,
Andy's back. He's just paying a flight. So we had Andy and Rob both stick their heads into the commentary. What is this box? Commentary room. It's not a box, is it? Suite. That's, yes. And I think Rob was looking for more stories and said, what did we want? And I forgot to say, can you check out whether the relationship with the Griffins, which you didn't do. We was going to talk about the WRC Developments car, which meant, and you know, a quick, strong lineup as well. You got obviously David Drinkwater out now. Andy Mollison is a good peddler as well. Will Gibson learning his way in these ones. Will, as well as legends to race BMWs. And James Poulton. I don't know much about James, so I might have to go and find out about him when I do a pit lane stint, which is I think is going to have to wait till tomorrow morning now.
Yeah, James has done plenty in terms of particular racing with the C1s, as we see here in 527. Now, I wonder, this looks like possibly it could be.
That's fuel, isn't it?
Deep breath, everyone. It could be our first proper pit stop that's going on 527. So maybe they're pulling the pin and going, right, this is our first proper scheduled stop. So 527 Red Sky Racing. That is the Shepherds across the board. So Jonathan, David, James and Rachel Shepherds sharing that car. We're looking here at the battle that's going on for 5th position in down to 9th. You've got, now at the front of this group, you have Euro Car Parts with Ryan Bensley. That's then followed by the Emax car of either James or one of the Littles, James or Jake Little. Then you have Tom Ingram. As those are wondering, yes, it's that Tom Ingram, 2022 British Touring Car Champion. He is at the wheel of the OPC PR machine, number 431. Then you have Bacon Racing with Little Molly, and that's Sandra Proietti. And then you've got Max Walsh in the better performing of the 2 currently WRC Developments with CB Auto Services car, and that's Max Walsh. He's apparently the son of regular Production Cup GTI sort of veteran Martin Walsh. Remember the Predator Production Cup from those days. And he's getting his grips in that car which got the We Buy Any phone livery, which I remember seeing a couple of years ago when it raced here at Silverstone. So good to see that car's back out once more. But it's almost kind of typical a little bit of seeing, this is kind of like 5 cars that you would expect to be towards the front. You've got the 2 teams which will feature at least 1 touring car driver. There's the highest placed Emax car. You've got the Bacon car, which is quite quick, and the WRC Developments car, which also can produce fast cars. So 5 cars that are not making any surprises being up there in this leading group. Initially battling it from 5th down to 9th. So these guys are making up pretty much the majority of the second half of the top 10 at this point, and having quite good fun circulating together by the looks of it.
They are, and you know, looking back, in those early laps, I think when we got to about 15 minutes or so in, we were saying that Aidan Hill's dropped back a little bit from the lead trio,
And he did, but he hasn't really lost that much more time as we take a moment to reflect and see some refuelling going on the 527 car. And you can see a little bit battle-scarred. Jeremy, our pit lane cameraman, caught that up absolutely superbly. Next Shepherd looking to go in. Is that, I don't know me Shepherds, to be perfectly honest. I should do. But it's Clio's a long time ago, and I've not spoken to the Shepherd family for about 3 years, I think, since we did the last 24-hour. They do participate in other C1 events, but haven't been on quite as many of those. As we head back to the 599 car, Ryan Bensley in the Eurocar car parts machine. Don't know who's going to go in second into that car, but Ryan having a good run. 599, 346 Emax Motorsport following him, and then Tom Ingram in the white car with the blue diagonal slants on front of the bonnets. And Tom, well, you can't keep him out of a race car. Obviously, last weekend we had the debut meeting of the season for the British Touring Car Championship. Here he is doing a 24-hour race this weekend. Next weekend, where is he? Brands Hatch Touring Cars. So then, will he have a weekend? Probably not the weekend after.
Well, probably not until the winter, I think, at this rate, given he's got tons going on. But I think it's quite good that these drivers do keep themselves. They do keep their hand in. They keep themselves fresh. They're trying to enjoy racing in a different way. And
I bet he's got scale electric when he gets home as well.
Oh, of course, naturally. That's default by all racing drivers, isn't it? Having a scale electric. Or is that back in the 90s? Like
that's compulsory still, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, it's still popular, scale electric. They still kind of do release new cars often, and lots of new cars that come into mix. And
I think more collectible now. I was chatting to
I'd say so.
Tony Paxman, who's in the modified Ford series, and he had a model made of his car, which I keep meaning to get actually. And he was saying that there were a lot of advance orders when his car came out. The Scale Extra were telling him how many orders there were, and the day it was available, like particularly Japanese collectors buy them. Obviously, he said he hasn't got a fan base. Look at that, it's a great shot there. But yeah, the Japanese buy, they will buy every single model that comes out in Japan. So Tony's big in Japan now, apparently. And he's big here, to be honest, Porty Paxman.
Yeah, of course. And you have to remember as well that the Scale Electrics are a partner/sponsor of the modified Ford series. So they do regularly like to immortalise a handful of modified Ford race cars into Scale Electrics form for collectors, those who want to use them for what I guess they're intended to, which is to stick them on Scale Electrics tracks and play with them. But you're right, the Scale Electrics is becoming more and more these days a lot more collectible, and it's good to see that it's still keeping itself up and still has a strong base of fans, a strong base of people that are in the mix.
We were talking about Hornby last week actually with Paul, who runs the Street of Brands.
Oh yes, Paul Clark. Yes,
Paul Clark.
If Paul happens to be watching, hi Paul. Good to see you.
We were talking about Toby Trice, who did really well, did 2 wins in Sprint Challenge last weekend, and he's Intercity 125 railway driver.
Oh yeah,
engine driver. And Paul was saying, you should maybe get in touch with them and do it, because his car is in the livery of his train that he drives. And Paul was saying, we need to get a thing with Scale Electric going. So I think that's the next conversation. There might be a Toby Trice train coming out on Hornby from Scale Electric.
That would be quite cool.
Which would be pretty good. But
how good is that for working with partner sponsors to have a train to have a train with your own sponsor on it? How much of that immortalise whatever livery you've got or sponsor you've got on that?
Yeah, I was delighted for Toby Trice to get those 2 wins. I mean, I'm not biased or anything, but the guy went through a lot, had a bad accident. And Toby, he's another one I'm going to... Actually, he's a bit naughty. He didn't respond to my messages last week congratulating him. But he's another driver that would do well here.
Definitely, I think so. Definitely in relation to that one. Whilst we're talking there, we have another mandatory pit stop by the looks of it. That's Project 63, which is being run by our good friends at AB Motorsport. So that's them. They've got the trio of...
which one was that? AB Motorsport?
AB Motorsport is in Ali Bray. That's the car in 13th place, 394, Project 63.
Oh, no, I never knew that. Oh, that would make sense. That's why Adam Bessel and Brian Trott are in
Brian Trott, Stuart Simmons and Adam Bessel.
So is Ali here? I'll need to...
I would presume so, given that he has been in previous years when they've run a car. So if he is, hopefully so. Him and himself and his lovely wife Nikki typically are as a pair when they go to race circuits.
That would be good for an interview a little bit later on. So that's,
that would.
If Rob doesn't do it, I'll certainly go and have a word with Mr. Bray. Unbeaten.
Yes.
In Mazdas.
In the MX-5 Championship. I worked out a stat actually. is that in terms of
That's the Kent models, isn't it? We're talking about models, Kent Models Championship.
Yes, Kent Models Mazda MX-5s. Of course, it's good to have them on sponsor for the championship, title sponsor as well. Start Iron Cupboard, which I did put out on social media, which I looked this up. Up until that weekend, in terms of like number of wins at the start of the season, the likes of Tom Roach and Will Blackwell Chambers, if you go right back into the Mark 1s in that championship, have won 5 out of the first 6.
Yeah.
Ali, after his hat-trick at Brands Hatch, to add to his 3 wins here at Silverstone, as far as I've been able to record on looking back at stats, he's been the first driver in that championship since that iteration began in 2013, the first driver ever to win the first 6 races consecutively from the first race to the 6th, no braking or no kind of 5 out of 6. And that's quite a unique achievement. And it wasn't the case that they weren't all dominant wins, because if you watch all 6 of them, they're close ones that he has to fight for.
He's not running away with it, is he?
Close ones he has to fight for. They're close wins when he has to get his elbows out and defend, and points when he's been 3rd or 4th at one point, battled his way back in front and got himself back into the mix, and been ultimately where you need to be at the checkered flag, which sounds obvious, but in P1 at the front. So he's managed to make that happen. And so in a couple of weeks' time, he'll be trying to extend that gap, and the championship next goes to Stetson in Norfolk in a couple of weeks' time. So we'll be looking to try.
Actually, do you know what? I updated all of the Mazda stats, a bit like Mr. McEwen does, on the spreadsheet, and I've got Super Cup, Mark 1s and Clubmans, and I've got more in the spreadsheet, and I haven't done it this year. And what is the point if I'm not going to? But then I'm not working, and they're not streamed after July, which is a pity. So I don't think I'll see the Mazdas again this year. Which is a shame.
It is a bit of a shame, but we have, of course, the live stream schedule that there is. There are still a number of Brscc events that are being live streamed this year, this being one of them, of course. And as the pack makes its way down towards here, now we picked up our top 3 down towards Tailworth. This is our leading trio, I think. Yes, this is now going to be JW Bird's 347 car, Alpha Trojan 41. It's going to be Apollo Rosso back in 3rd. Now we had this back in 2023, or at least in sometimes when we've had races at Silverstone, where the front 3 will create like a trio, and they'll start to pull away and have a battle amongst themselves. And just sort of there, the 41 car for Trojan, was just very neatly, perfectly just riding that inside sausage curve on the left to try and get a little bit of leverage when he kind of threw the car into the right-hander through maggots. As they come onto the back straight now, the hanger straight now, what is the 38th time. Pace has dipped a tiny bit the last couple of laps. They've gone back into the very, practically everyone's in a low to mid 3 minutes. It was 3 minutes, 0.3 for JW Bird. It was 2:59.9 for Alpha Trojan, and then a 3 minute 0.6 for Scuderia Polo Rosso, as diving into the Stowe corner. And that's Chris Freeman taking the lead in Alpha Trojan 41. And it's not an unfamiliar sight too much to see the bright fluorescent yellow Alpha Trojan machine at the head of a C1 race, particularly when it's the 24 hours.
Rory Clark down into 2nd position, and is that the one we don't know which Matthews it is? Matthews 310 is
James.
You think? Yeah, I'll go with that. No idea why, but getting into a little bit of lappery. And amazing, we are getting towards very nearly 2 hours into this race, and the top 3 still all together. You could, literally tie them together. They're that close at the moment. Coming up on a little bit more traffic, but Alpha Trojan still out top doing a super job here. In fact, all of the top 3 are. They're all taking it in turns, and this is a little bit like one of those Olympic cycling races, isn't it? Where, hey, you have a go, and then someone else will take over and.
What's the term for that kind of 3 cycle?
I've no idea.
It's because World Touring Cars copied it for their qualifying format. It's something similar where they had the 3 team cars and they went out and it was a team qualifying format. But it was a really short name, I'm sure it was. What was the? I can't remember. I'd love to look it up.
I was thinking it's more like the Chuckle Brothers to me, to you. That sort of that's my level. But Scott is now googling.
I'm trying to find out what that term was. It was maybe it's something that begins with letter P, but it was. Well, it was like a group qualifying. I'm sure someone in the chats would scream at me now on the YouTube chat. Do be sure to put your comments in YouTube if you have been already throughout the day. So
it's amazing people do that. And I apologise for not looking at it, but I've done stuff. There was one a few months ago. I think it was maybe end of last season, and we did a C1 round. And I was talking about cloud formations, as you do. You go off like a tangent, and someone actually said, "Oh, that one's a Carrera Nimbus," and actually knew what it was. So fair play to people for doing that and for filling it in. And although I don't see these comments at the time, we'll very often go in and have a look afterwards. So efforts are appreciated. Thank you very much for those of you that do take the trouble to do that. So Alpha Trojan, this is the lead trio that we stay with. And the 310 car looking to have a go. The Scuderia Polo Rosso car trying its best to have a little nibble at the JW Bird Motorsport car and go into second position. So they're still battling, and actually this isn't, I don't think this is all sort of taking turns, is it? It's maybe somebody just gets a bit far. As long as they stay in relatively close formation, they will continue to trade and swap. It's the third place car that still has the, according to the timing screen, fastest lap. It's the Alpha Trojan car, in fact the lead car now, that has the fastest lap according to TSL, as they come along the Wellington Straight once again. And this is looking all rather close. Again, no, it's not the Wellington Straight. We're coming along into Stowe Corner, beg your pardon. Got my bearings caught out there, but head down the inside comes the JW Motorsport car back into lead at Stowe, heading down towards Club. And now we're going to see Alpha Trojan just dumped. No, we're not. Stays in, slots in and consolidates second place up ahead of Scuderia Polo Rosso in third. So yeah, these guys getting a little bit more racy at the moment as we head towards the 2-hour bit. And one wonders whether it's the drivers thinking, you know what, getting towards the end of this first stint, potentially. Therefore, let's have a little bit of fun. We've got the 3 cars here. Let's have a little bit of fun. We're settling in. We've got through that first hour and a half. We're heading towards the 2-hour one. Now we can start to maybe get stuck in, do a little bit of place swapping. The laps are there, Scott. Obviously, all of the top 4. And a handful of other cars having broken the 3-minute barrier. Did you find the word, by the way?
Yes, Mach 3. That's what that was.
Oh, okay, well I wouldn't have known that anyway.
Yeah.
Well done.
So it was inspired by like time trial cycling. So
right.
What they did was quite simply is that it says so you have teams of 3 of our manufacturers. Back when WTCC wasn't TCR, but you had like Citroen and Lada and Chevrolet and a couple of different manufacturers. And what they would do is they would have 3 vehicles to start alongside each other for 2 or 3 laps. I'm quoting directly from the article I found. For 2 or 3 laps of the circuit, and with the time that the third car crosses the line, determining the time for the group. So also all 3 cars had to stick together in one collective together, and it's basically the timer only stopped when the third car in the group and the back of the group crossed the line. It wasn't the first, the second, the third one crossed the line in order to get the entire group. I think there was points awarded or different kind of qualifying format based on obviously how quick they were, so that was obviously a key thing to watch out for there too. So yeah, Mach 3, and that was called, and it's called that because it's called manufacturers against the clock, and there was obviously 3 cars per manufacturer. So, and they used that format because it was inspired, and I think it came also from the fact that when you looked at World Touring Car qualifying sessions before, you used to see like the Seats or the BMWs or the Alphas would go around. There's 531s coming off the road very briefly. 531 going for a spin, and also I think we've got a car in the pits. 474's also pitted as well. In fact, there's a few cars coming to the pits now. UMAC's got a couple of cars in themselves. The 531's just been off the road as well. That was a spin for them up at Mackett's and Beckett's. These are leaders going side by side by side. And it looks as though that JW Bird is just about holding on now back into the lead. So Chris Freeman's lost the lead now to Rory Clark. Freeman second place and Matthews third. And there are the UMAX Motorsport cars side by side in team formation in the pit lane. 2 of the 6 cars they're looking after this weekend. And again, this is just regular refueling stops. They have got tyres ready for some of the teams, so they will be changing, looks like, possibly fronts or maybe the inside front or the outside front, which were the left, because it will be leaning on that quite often as they've gone through. So pit stops starting to begin, starting to be shuffled around a little and trying to make the most of those if they can. So strategy starting to come into play here for scheduled stops.
Yeah, I was just looking to see who was in the Red Sky racing car. That was the first one that we saw come in. But of course, all we get is Jay Shepherd, which could be Jonathan or James. So I'm not sure which one it is out in this stint. But have dropped down the order, as you would expect from the stops. And we won't really get a handle until everyone's got 1 or 2. And of course, the thing is now we probably won't get parity on stops until, well, we won't get it now ever again.
That is very true. Yes. Well, I did do a quick search on Driver DB, and there was Jonathan Shepherd who has done Clios before, back in the late 2000s. So he's got some experience there. Hence the Clio Cup. So unless that's a replica, I'm pretty certain that.
No, it's a real one. I remember him in Clio
Cup. Oh, it's a real one.
Yeah,
okay. I was thinking in terms of legality, in terms of obviously because that's quite an old race.
I don't think you'd replicate one. I don't think you'd want to.
Oh right, I see. Not for posterity, I'm guessing.
No. I had the same conversation with somebody about, it was a really, really annoying conversation I had with a guy about the late Sterling Moss. I'd uncovered some pictures of Sterling racing a certain type of car, or practicing a certain type of car, and this guy was insistent that it was a Sterling Moss lookalike, not Sterling himself. And he had a BRDC badge on. Right. I said you wouldn't go to the trouble of replicating a BRDC badge, and if you did, you'd probably get into trouble.
Probably so, yes, definitely.
So it was complete nonsense about him being a lookalike. Some people cannot be told.
That is true sometimes. we generalise when we say that. Some people just you can.
Well, this particular bloke, I won't name him, but you can give him the waste of the airtime on him.
There are some people you can give all the facts in the world, and they'll simply still look you dead in your face and go, "Nope, not true." And I think for some of them, they just can't be helped. Anyway, looking at our City Car Cup car, our only City car on the field, number 15, which is the Emax Motorsport machine. I think that still has Alex Libbs.
Yes, it is. Yeah, I checked that a couple of minutes ago.
Yes, it does. So he's currently in the 26th position, so just trying to climb back up the order. Lap time wise, interestingly, what's he doing lap time wise? He's doing 3 minute 1.5, so his best time is 3 minute point 3 minutes 0.6, so 3:00.628. His last lap was about 9/10 slower than that, in 26th position. And
coming up to 2 hours, we've got 45 seconds, Scott, before we have the 2 hour ding dong. We're going to have the strike of the clock, and as Andy asked me at the end of the first hour, Scott, what have we learned from the second hour?
We've learned that the front three are just as fast as each other. What we're also learning as well is that Aidan Hill's spoken up again, because his last lap was a 2:59.105 personal best. Granted, he's 20 seconds off the leading group, but he's still got some time to make up, and possibly maybe pushing a little bit because he knows that pit stops are coming soon. Typically when you start getting quicker lap times,
he's woken up again as if he's been slouching around. He's been far from that, isn't he?
I only say so because he's 20 seconds off the leading group. I'm not suggesting he hasn't put any effort in, but maybe he's sat back a little. Maybe possibly it's strategic and he's sat back a little bit just to kind of save a little bit of tyres, a little bit of fuel, just keep steady.
Because when you're jostling, right, you're going to be using more of everything. You're going to be using more energy. You're going to be using physical energy for yourself. You're going to be using more gas in the car, more tyres as well.
Exactly.
It's a good point, Scott. It's a good point.
Yeah. So maybe and of course, and Aidan's a smart driver. He wouldn't have won 2 MX5 Super Cup Pro Class titles if he wasn't. And of course, he's been a junior rallycross star, and in his first season of MX5 Super Cup, he was Rookie of the Year. So there's a good reason for that. And of course, now he runs his own team, Hills Motorsport, quite successfully with his dad Darren. They've got some good clients in various Mazda series,
and they got good people around them as well. Of course,
they do.
I mean, Darren's a lovely guy anyway. Always had a lot of time for him as a person, wonderful person. But then they have the likes of John Higgins, who was a multiple Legends World Champion. He's there. JJ Jr. is involved. Dave and Carol Longhurst. Dave Longhurst from the he's done touring car engineering, world champion. In the mix as well. So really, really savvy outfit.
Silver Lake 558 are in. That's the Gen 2 that's in for its first pit stop.
Is that the only Gen 2 in the... Have we got several Gen 2s?
I think there's possibly one more from maybe from Emax. Right. Possibly. I'll need to double check all their cars and what they've got. But yes, at the very least...
It does look good though, doesn't it?
It does. And it does suit it. And the good thing is that the work they've put in with the Gen 2 car to make sure that it balances just about perfectly with the Gen 1 cars has been really stringent. They managed to get plenty of testing miles out. I think Robin, the thing himself, has been in it, and the Silver Lake guys have been doing plenty to get those as on par with the Gen 1s as possible. And so I think there was a bit of fear sometimes whenever you bring a new car in or a new generation of the car. The first initial fear is, is it going to come in and be quicker than the previous generation? But I think with this car I'm sure that either Robin or someone else will correct me in the comments or shout at me if I'm wrong, but obviously the basis of that car effectively is still the Gen 1 in a way. It's just obviously they've uprated it and made it a bit more sort of uprated it and bettered it for 2020 for the second gen. And of course you can see it's got a different, newer kind of manufacturer updated body on that car as well with the Gen 2. Although sadly it looks like this is going to be more than just a regular stop, because as you can see 558 has been wheeled into the garage, and I did see
Rob's there, isn't he?
Yes, Senor Lewis is there, just offside, just off shot there with the tip of his microphone.
The pit lane prowler, as we were calling him in hour 1.
Yes, pit lane prowler. Yes.
Or Silverstone Sleuth, as he prefers to be known.
I'm sure he's been called much worse. But yes, he's the bit there waiting to be. I anticipate he probably would be giving it Silver Lake around in that sense.
I'm wondering.
So wait and see.
We saw the wing mirror was off that, and I'm wondering if that was the wing mirror they retrieved in hour 1.
Well, we'll find out, because Rob is down there to ready for us to throw to him. So Rob, down at Silver Lake, what news do you have?
And then I'll go to the car.
So 558's just been pushed into the pit lane. Nothing drastic. What they did have is a couple of the light bars at the front were damaged. They were bent upwards, and a mirror was missing off of one of the doors. So what the team are doing now, it's more beneficial. They can get more bodies onto the car when they're in the garage. Out on the pit lane, the rules are very, very different. You're only allowed 4 people to touch the car out in the pit lane. That includes the driver, so they can get more hands on deck. They can get more people in. They can sort out the various issues they need to sort out. But they're able to carry it on until the end of the stint, so that's handy for them. So any body panels that come off the car, they can put it back on at the next stop. So they've got a mirror on, they've done tyre change, they've done fuel. The team are getting to work. I think they've got the handy gaffer tape to get some of the mirrors in, ironically. But Alan Preble is in car 558, the Gen 2 car here right now, and they're getting ready to go out onto the circuit. More important pit stops to come. My intelligence sources tell me, because the team are getting ready exactly next door, that Scuderia Polo Rosso are getting ready for a pit stop. So James will be coming into the pit shortly, and hopefully we can bring you an interview of his lovely stint. But I'm going to go get some more interviews. Well, try to, at least. I might even go and poke a bit more fun at the Brscc car that's... oh, yes, Andrew blew the engine. But for now, back to the commentary team.
Silver Lake guys knew someone to get spare parts from.
You need some kind of company that I think could partner up with sponsoring with the series to kind of maybe supply some spare part, a bit like someone who breaks down cars and stuff. I can't think who it might be. I have to be honest, admittedly, for a second, I didn't actually realise. I saw the car was in the pit lane, the Brscc car, the BPC car. I actually didn't realise he blew the engine. So hopefully that's not terminal and that's their race over.
I think that's the second one, because they were changing one lunchtime today when I was going
really?
round. And yeah,
okay. Well,
lovely move by JW Bird around the outside there, really going for the burn up around the outside. Did you see that? That was a move.
That was quite a move, and this, of course, is the scrap for the lead. Well, practically 3 abreast now for the lead, in towards Copse Corner, and Scuderia Polo Rosso, with Frank Clay at the wheel, does indeed come out on top through turn 1. So
he's hurrying because he wants the interview by Rob. That's what it is.
I thought he was trying to speed into his pit stop, but he does want to talk to Rob and tell him how well he's gone in this first. Scuderia Polo Rosso have been genuine front runners in this race, which is quite interesting. Again, I've mentioned it before, but I love watching the way that Alfa just skims with their outside tyre, just skims that red sausage curve to help leverage the car to the next part of the corner as they go through. Also in there too was a car, I think that's 593, the car at the back of that shot had a spin earlier on. I can't think who it was. It was round about, I think, Maggots and Beckett's, that area. So that car's recovered after a spin earlier on.
Polo Rosso, wasn't Andrew Wilkins' son used to be in that? Andrew Wilkins, the commentator. Lovely commentator, Andrew Wilkins.
Potentially, yes. Rob will have
James,
more news on
was it James? I can't remember his name. I apologise for not remembering Andrew's son's name, but hope Andrew's well. I haven't heard from him from a good while, which is a shame, but a lovely man, great commentator. Would have been nice to have had him involved at some point as well. But he retired, years ago, and miss him as a circuit voice. Used to love him at Mallory Park. I don't know if you had the pleasure of listening to Andrew Wilkins.
I can't say I have, truthfully. I'm sure his dulcet tones were wonderful.
Absolutely brilliant, man.
So, Scuderia Polo Rosso are now lost the lead back again. Now they're giving Trojan the hurry up exiting out of Club Corner, whilst JW Bird with Rory Clark just sits there with the popcorn thinking, yeah, I'll come past you when I get a moment. I'll just watch you two fight amongst each other. You can see that at least the running lights are going on. 442 is coming out from its pit stop. 427 stationary at Club Corner. Now, that's got front wheels akimbo, unfortunately, so that car's not going to go any further, at least of its own power for the moment. So 427 wasn't it that had the issue? That's the AF racing car with Zachary Arthur at the wheel. That car had been running 18th. So this I'm certain is going to be the first in ever since this race has begun. First of a full course yellow at least. As you can see, I think it's safe to say, one front wheel is pointing in a direction it shouldn't be, by the looks of it. So it looks to me as if it's had some kind of collision or contact. The big mystery is going to be now is who is it going to be? Because see if anyone's had any other contact or possibly limping around or stopped anywhere. And that's a real shame. So the first kind of, if you want to call it a major incident in the race, has now taken place, and I'm certain this might. Well, this is the thing. I would say it would bring in a flurry of pit stops, but I'm pretty certain, unless you're in the pit lane serving one already, that once, if a full course, I think you can pit under a full course yellow, but not under a safety car.
That was going to be my question.
So I think what Rob was saying, I'm sure Rob, if he's listening, will again shout at me if I'm wrong. But I believe you can pit under a full course yellow, just not under a safety car.
Right.
And if you do pit under a safety car, you get a minimum 6 minute. Well, I think you're allowed to make a pit stop under the safety car, but it's a minimum 6 minutes, and it might not count towards your pit stop quota in terms of official pit stops. It has to be under green flag conditions that you make it. It's to stop teams from getting involved and causing safety cars. Is that and taking advantage of the slower pace to get leapfrog everyone and get a lap? Of course. Right. Tyreskin has told us prepare for full course yellow, so they are going to go to that very shortly. Now, how that works is very similar to if you've watched Brscc GT or any other sports car championships, anything like that, particularly World Endurance, where they will essentially give them a countdown over the radio. Then they'll tell everyone they've got to slow down to 50 kilometres an hour. Full course yellow is now in effect. It's almost caught out the race leaders. It's almost caught out Chris Freeman. So everyone has to slow down to, I think it's 50 miles an hour.
You can see from the gap to the Polo Rosso car that he was a little bit slowing up. But they didn't have that.
But they do have this thing. But they do have this the race receiver system in place, so that all the teams and drive. All the cars on circuit get told at exactly the same time to prepare for full course yellow and to count down. And they will have been told to slow down a little bit. There is the stranded 427 car. And as I say, it's looking rather lost in that sea of tarmac on the road where it's kind of paused from where it is. So everyone now at a reduced pace whilst it goes through at a much safer and slower speed. Now the snatch vehicle, I'm sure, will go down there to recover it off the circuit. And of course that car, unless they declare themselves out of the race, won't be out of the race. They'll simply tow that car back to the pit lane or bring it back on the rear of a flatbed or a low loader, or they'll tow it back to the pits, and then the teams can work on that to do so.
Burton car in the pits.
You are right, yes. Whilst we were thinking about that, we have got the Euro Car Parts team into pits, as is also the Burton Power Racing squad as well. Now, I wonder who is getting in. Look at the helmet. I'm going to presume or have a guess. It might be possibly Aidan Moffat. I'm going to possibly tout.
With or without subtitles?
I don't want to say things like that, otherwise you get in trouble later on.
No, Aidan's a good.
So, yes, if Aidan is in the mix, unless he needs some kind of translation when he is on the team radio. But anyway, the AFR machine is now been picked up by the snatch vehicle. So I'm certain in order to be able to get it moving, they're going to have to obviously hitch up and probably lift up the front end so they can then put it away.
Fluorescent and beefy, that unit, isn't it?
It is, yeah. That's a proper old school Defender, I think. Or at least it's one of the more modern Defenders they've done up with the bit of like a flatbed in the back as well, or like a pickup style flatbed in the back. So
one for Rob to go and find out about, or Andy, because I think Andy's having a proud as well now.
Yes, I believe so. He is. Whilst it was happening, I guess it should be a prompt time, as I'm sure we'll do several times this broadcast, to give a massive, massive thank you to all of our marshals, our volunteers, our officials, all of our recovery crews that are out the circuit who are taking stints and taking in turns to man the circuit around here for 24 hours. Of course, we couldn't do it without them. Without motorsport, we just generally could. Without volunteers and marshals, there'd be no motorsport, because they are the lifeblood of the sport, and they do it for the sport that they enjoy. They give up their free weekends and their time to be part of big events like this, and it certainly does help. It certainly does make a difference when we have a high quality volunteer team in that sense. Now then, this is interesting. Into the pit lane. Well, I was about to say the pit lane comes Alpha and JW Bird, but not Polo Rosso. But at the split second last minute, they decided, no, follow everyone else and come in.
And Aidan Hill's behind as well, I think.
Yes, so it looks like the top four in the cross line, and also we've got the Tom Ingram's in as well, an OPCPR. So pretty much all of the leading cars are in for their first scheduled pit stops. So Polo Rosso gets the signal to turn in. I think they'll be the first ones to turn off into their box. I can see Rob is down there as well to keep tabs.
Right, Rob, you've got to cover all of these, mate.
There is the 421 Trojan car. There's a Rab Sport also in there as well, making a stop. And this will be, first of all, refuelling.
Nice shot across the track, as well as Jeremy, our pit lane cameraman, doing stuff. But
and as you can see as well, this is not teams. You can see where they're running around and get themselves in place. This is not like a casual Saturday evenings racing. This the teams that will practice and take it fully seriously and practice pit stops. The 427 car's now been hoisted, at least the front wheels have been hoisted off the ground, so we can then get it back via its free-moving rear wheels. But you can see that the front right, even though it's got the harness on it, wasn't fully attached or fully secure, shall we say. It was wiggling around a little bit. So Polo Rosso now commencing its refuelling, its first proper refuelling stop of the race. So everyone in the top 10, apart from 346 Emax Motorsport and Bacon Racing and CMR Racing, Par Motorsports 333, are in for mandatory stops. In fact, we've got a good, must be 15 odd teams in for their scheduled stops. 585 is down there, 347, which is JW Bird's car from third place. The Euro car parts car, which is has the touring car trio of Josh Cook, Jade Edwards and Aidan Moffat, is also in there finishing its pit stop. And 486, that's the other WRC Developments car, and 586 is in as well. I think they're refueling 586 as its teammates head out without too much drama. They came into the pits in 8th, so we'll see if they can leapfrog anyone. And OPCPR also back out as well. Tom Ingram has handed the car over to Ron Johnson, who has several years of British GT experience, so he's getting back out there. I think Tom Ingram is also, if I'm correct, I think he has done driver coach Ron Johnson.
He has, yeah,
for quite a while. So that's the reason. That's how and why I think Tom has wrote this. Along with it being a fun endurance race to be a part of, and I'm sure that he caught wind from the likes of Josh Cook and Aidan Moffat. They were doing it, and he went, "Yeah, I'll give it a go as well." So and be good to see. We should get more of the touring car drivers to come and give us a go. They did previously when we did the first few ones at Rockingham, and they had a few different touring car drivers. I think even Alan Gow had a go at one point in 2016 for a team. So it's good to see that.
Could you imagine us giving Alan Gow a stick on one of these?
I think there was a situation where I think he did I think he refueled when he wasn't supposed to or something, but no one really said anything. That was back in 2016. I think.
That's the question actually. Would I have said something to? Because he's quite scary, isn't he, Alan?
I suppose to some he's quite intimidating. Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
Back with the race, full course yellow has now ended, so we're back to green flag, so everyone can go back up to racing speeds now. So any time which would have taken in the pits here would have been saved based on everyone going at 50 miles an hour rather than 60, 70, 80, or how fast they're able to put these cars around the circuit. You can see that the fluorescent yellow Alpha Trojan car, just with its rear end sticking out, see where it is. That's the 373 car also in for a stop. 373 is Midway Motorsport. That's the quartet of Frank Petit, who's a regular, I think, who's raced a Renault Clio at some points in various different series, including Evolution Trophy and in what was the FinSport Renault Cup last year. He's alongside Nigel Rata, Jack Sandy Brownlee and Thomas Redford.
Is Jack getting in the car? The clue on the side.
Yes, JSB on the side of the helmet. So looks like it is going to be Jack Sandy Brownlee to do so. Out goes 586, WRC Developments. Still no movement yet from either JW Bird or the Alpha Trojan squad, although the rear hatch has gone down on 247. It goes back up again quickly. They've forgotten something. But Alpha have been pushed backwards, so it looks like they're ready to go. And so the defending 24-hour winners in 2023 are straight out first of all. And it looks like out of the trio, of course they're going to have to tag themselves out, which they do. And away goes Trojan. So they are the first out of the front runners from the pit stops. By the looks of it, yes, they are out because the rest of the top 5 have yet to leave. I imagine possibly JW Bird or Polo Rosso with the next ones that go out shortly. And of course, back to green flag conditions, so no reduced speed. They can put the foot down and quickly start to build up the gap.
And that is our 3-car dice ruined.
Well, it was fun while it lasted. But
we'll pick up some other bits.
I'm sure we will. Yeah. Right, Scuderia Polo Rosso are out next, so they've just exited the pits. They're out in second, so it looks like they're going to be next to those. And I'm just watching the timing screen. If you're watching the timing screen on TSL Timing, you'll be able to tell if a car's in the pit lane, it has a little silver cog where its positions are, where there's usually an arrow where it's kept positions, or a green arrow when it's gone up places, or a red arrow when it's gone down. And usually that cog disappears when it's out of the pit lane. So next out is JW Bird. They're out in what is a net 3rd place. And then you will then next have both #Blessed and Emax Motorsport to round off the top 5. And that has been quite a gap created between them. The timing screen has now picked up that CMR Racing are, the leaders in the inverted commas, but they've just made their pit stop. They've come in for a stop as well. OPCPR have been out for a little bit too, as is also with Euro Car Parts. And with the Euro Car Parts car, it is, I think, the main man of the team, Josh Cook, who has jumped behind the wheel. So 599 now has Cookie. And again, he quite enjoys a bit of C1 endurance racing, does it several times, will come out regularly in the regular shorter 3 and 4 hour races for C1 endurance, and that's to do so with Mr. Rubio. We'll get to see just yet. There's the Army Team Car 560, Army Motorsport. Good to see Army Motorsport on the grid. Good to see a squad of cars in there. Good to see an Armed Forces squad in an endurance race outside of the regular and brilliant Race of Remembrance, which is always a wonderful occasion to be a part of. If you've ever done Race of Remembrance at all?
No, I haven't. It's wedding anniversary weekend generally for me.
Ah,
so
right, okay. I see.
Not that that's necessarily a valid excuse, but you know, when you do take the missus for a wet weekend in Anglesey. But yes, I should do.
Yeah.
I should do. I think this year there might be some gap. Unfortunately, that time of year tends to get busy because we've got. Is it the week after or a couple of weeks after the festival? So we kind of get a run of touring car final, festival, and then scholarships. So I don't know if there's a Fiesta Junior one this year, but
I don't know officially, but I'd be surprised if there wasn't. Let's put it that way.
I don't know if I'll get invited back to the Ginetta one because I missed last year. Jade Edwards took my slot last year because it was Brscc finals day.
Ah, right, yes.
When I opted to do the Brscc finals instead of going to the Ginetta.
That was here at Silverstone on the international circuit.
Yeah,
that one knocked over. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I wasn't able to do the Ginetta. They then asked me to do the Friday, going up to Brighton for a day and then coming down. But Jade stood in admirably, and I think now she's got the gig, she'll probably hang on to it. It's the way these things tend to work. But
I'm sure you're valued.
I would love to do it again. If anyone from Ginetta's listening, it's great fun. I don't want to nick the work back of Jade, but it's like the Fiesta Scholarship. It's so good to see the quality and standard of young people coming through, and to give a bit back. You know, we're able to give them feedback. And I said to Lawrence Tomlinson last year, you don't realise how many people you're bringing into the sport, and not just for Ginetta racing. A prime example of that, Tudor Nikita, who was in the 150s last year.
Yes.
Met him on the Ginetta Scholarship 5-6 years ago, and then he rocked up at Driven by Racing, which we were talking about. Not last year, year before. And he said, "Oh, you won't remember me?" And I said, "I do remember you very well." And his mum and dad, and they were lovely people, and we had a chat. And I said, "Are you coming racing now?" And he said, "Yep, I've been away, I've done a bit of karting." He said, "Oh, you couldn't afford to do Ginetta." But he'd stayed with the racing thing, and he came and joined us in the SD150. I think he was doing this year, but he was in the final detail 150s last year.
Yeah.
And I said to Lawrence, I said, "What you don't realise is that when you continued that scholarship, Martin Fashioned originally, but when Ginetta carried it on, and so many people come in to the sport, and they're not necessarily going to race Ginetta." And I said, "But you've brought loads of people in that haven't even gone near your product afterwards, but you're still responsible for getting them to make the transition from karting or looking to getting them on track." And he hadn't actually realised that there were that many people that would do that.
Yeah, this is the on-track battle. This is the two touring car piloted crews. This is Josh Cook firing himself past Ron Johnson. So that's the touring car trio past the Tom Ingram team car, if you like. It's not exactly Tom Ingram's team.
He waved when he went past them.
Yes, he did. Yeah. I'm not sure you realised. I'm not sure he's actually realised it's not actually Tom driving. It's Ron Johnson. He's probably waving it at Ron, thinking it's Tom, and thinking, "Hi." Oh no, it's not him. So he's now powered past, and that would have put him now into 9th position.
His new crash helmet. Have you seen Josh Cook's crash hat? Is the one with the Toka official headset painted onto it. He always has a novel.
I think I have. Yes.
Yeah. I don't know if he's got that.
He is always a bit of a sucker for a different paint scheme on his on his crash helmet before. As I think we can definitely tell which car was Midway Motorsport, given it's got the bright fluorescent blue light strips on the aerial. So we can definitely tell that car apart from everyone else. And that's what you'll find when you watch some of the overnight stream, just for those who are wondering in case you want to know what the setup is. So we've got just under an hour until our full cameras and commentary finishes on this part of the race for this stream. And what we'll do is we'll be transferring about just before 9 o'clock. We'll have it at the start just before 9 o'clock. will go into what we call the overnight stream. So from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. we will have a limited locked off camera, which you've seen a few times in this broadcast so far, which is located on the start and finish gantry, and you get a nice kind of split view of in the shot of pit straight of the cars coming past and also the pit lane. So you can see cars coming in and out, and you can see a handful doing pit stops. But whilst that's happening, and what we're going to do is we'll be able to plug into what with the circuit comms feed. We've spoken to some of the AV guys there, and they're happy for us to use it. So what we're going to do is, at the very least, I think myself and Rob and anyone else is welcome if they want to stick around and do some stuff also. I'm going to give you just a couple of extra sort of hours of comms on top to kind of keep you informed. It'll be a bit like very similar to that of a radio broadcast from a certain company who's named after a town in Le Mans, a town in
Le Mans.
A town in France.
Wouldn't be rated Le Mans, would it? Any chance?
It's named after a town in France which happens to host a famous 24-hour race. Well, give the game away now.
If you know the name of that station, then send your entries in.
Yes.
You go to Radio Le Mans competition.
Yes.
Brscc in Wheatley.
Yes, indeed.
Answer on a postcard and address them to Luke South. She'll be delighted to.
Yeah.
What if anyone will?
Who knows? They put it out there. Someone will. I'm sure they will. Someone will possibly. But yeah, it's just a kind of because some of us are quite hardy to do. So if you remember a couple of years ago, we had the one and only Paul Trustwell.
He did the whole thing,
didn't he? The whole thing. He does that regularly. Someone who likes to stay up quite regularly, quite late also, for various reasons, is Rob Lewis, and he's down in the pit lane to give us more stories on what's happening down in pit lane after that flurry of pit stops. What have you got, Rob?
I love bumping into acquaintances and friends down in the pit lane, one of them being Chris Diamond, the expert driver coach, incidentally. If you do want some driver coaching, this is your man. He's driving the Power Motorsport and CMR Racing C1 this weekend. It's a group of friends getting together to go C1 racing. You had a mega first stint, Chris. How was it?
Yeah, the start was ideal, really. Got with the lead pack, made a good start. I think one of the Silver Lakes cars, I don't know if he missed a shift or something, but he backed up everyone into turn one. So took the opportunity and went straight through, and then got into that sort of second pack. Was, yeah, in the middle of it for a good chunk, and I knew as soon as I got shuffled backwards it would be hard to carry on, because we still don't quite have the straight line on the other cars, even in the tow. But the lap times were good, and I could keep with it. But then I made a little mistake, and then a bit of back markerage and stuff, and that was it. Just broke, and it was just edging, and then you're 2 seconds lap off.
They're a bit different to a Porsche, these, aren't they?
A little bit, yeah. It's been 2007 in Clear Cut was the last time I raced a front-wheel drive car. So a few things to remember. I think they're coming in. I was going in a bit early compared to some of the others out there, but I'll change that for stint 2.
Fantastic. And how did this whole scheme come about with Power Motorsport? I mean, you work with them predominantly through Porsche Club Championship and other programmes, but how did the C1 programme happen?
So Dan and Steve and them dad Mike own the car, and they're the CMR part of it. They work for PAR. Dan's number one on one of our drivers in Porsche Club. So been working with them for 3 years. I raced for them in Carrera Cup in 2012. So I've always had that relationship with the guys, but there's not the same mechanics now than there was. But yeah, working with Dan predominantly for 3-4 years now. We've just built a relationship, and when the sort of idea was floated for a 24-hour race, Declan up on the pit wall was like, yeah, that sounds like a good crack. I think we tried to do it last year, but it didn't quite work out, and then this year it was like, right, all guns blazing, let's give it a go.
Brilliant. And you've done your first stint. What's the plan now? You're going to rest up and go again deep into the night?
Yeah, so we're going to rotate through our drivers in order, and we're just going to crack on, and I think I'm due in the car about 1:30, but we'll see what the fuel's doing and everything. And then, yeah, just a big thank you to the guys for inviting me along to have a play, and a good weekend with some good friends and people I've known a long time, so really having a good time.
Fantastic. Chris, always a pleasure to see you. So that's Chris Diamond with the Power Motorsport and CMR Racing C1 there. I'm going to grab some more driver interviews and rest the voices of our weary team in the commentary box. And if you are watching on the YouTube live stream, get some suggestions in the comments, people you want to give shout outs to. Why not? Let's see if we can read some of your comments out as well. But for now, back to the commentary team as we see some cars getting recovered.
Thanks very much, Rob. Yeah, Steve Cogswell now at the wheel of the 333 car. It's one I mentioned a little while ago. It's got Luke Simmons, one of my legend. You'll excuse me for mentioning legends. I'm not actually commentating on Legends Cars Racing at the moment. I haven't done for a bit, but you make a lot of friends over in championships that you work on either at the early stage of your career or on an ongoing basis. And lovely surprise to see Luke Simmons on the entry list today. So he's partnering up with Chris Diamond and Daniel and Steve Cogswell. So good to see him out. Hopefully, I'll get a chance to have a chat.
We've just done it, mate.
I'm definitely a 90s baby. I was literally born in 1990, so I'm definitely a 90s. Let's have a look. I'm sure Spotify is about to expose your circumstances. The last song I had on there, Laughing If You Want, I don't know, okay, I like this stuff. Something like Craig David. Yes. But if you look at my, genuinely, as I'm sure anyone will say, but if you genuinely look at my Spotify like liked song, you just hit liked on, it's incredibly eclectic. It'll go from something like Craig David to something that's more rock to something that's more like a random instrumental song, because I quite like instrumental music and whatever else. My music taste is incredibly eclectic in terms of the playlist, and that was going with the playlist will certainly attest to that. Yeah, well, it's usually we get to do things like an hourly update or something, and have something like that we go kind of playing back. But I remember that back in the days, also not just them, but also if you ever remember watching some of the highlights and stuff, or happen to catch somewhere, if you got very broadcast of the Bathurst, like the 80s and some of the early 90s, when they had some kind of music, when they did like a rundown of the order, but they played some kind of music in the background as like a further an addition to them running down the order. Which was quite a nice touch. Sometimes I'll find random bits of music which used those broadcasts as a bit of it as instrumental music, and I'll happy to discover them and find them, because there are some hardy people that will try and find instrumental music and it's usually just random, slightly obscure, just instrumental music that was used for commercial purposes, and you can find different places where you can license it and stuff. But I just find it because it's random songs that random composers have done over the years in studios and stuff for just TV, or for at the time like VHS edits or montages or things like that. It's lots of different songs. You know what VHS is, and so do I. Yeah, that was my time. That's the time of growing up with VHS, and then obviously moving to. I don't think I ever took one apart and screwed it, but I remember kind of doing the whole kind of having to redo the tape and to kind of screw it back in, to wind it back in to do that. Same with like cassette tape. For those who are born maybe with a year 2000 or something, will have no idea what a VHS or a cassette tape is. And I feel old saying that, given I was born in 1990, but and that was yeah, but that's the charm of it. Looking back at these days, yes, it's yes, you get crisp, clear quality now, but it's like back in the day. It's like I think some of those things are looked at more, and if you think it looked at more in terms of sentimental. If you also look as well the fact that I'm pretty sure, depending on the rarity of it or what it is, or if it's readily available, actual VHS tapes now can actually be worth quite a bit depending on what they are or what they're for, or how rare they are, or what if there's a particular version of them or what have you. You can buy some quite rare VHS tapes out there, and they can go for quite a pretty penny. How times change. Quick checking with how we are then on the race. We've got just under just gone past roughly 2.5 hours in, just gone not long afterwards. Alpha Trojan, where else would they be but top of the times at the moment, or top of the table? 22 seconds ahead of Scuderia Polo Rosso in second, and so after that initial kind of trio was battling away for just over an hour, or an hour and a bit at the front of the field, the pit stops have certainly broken them up a lot more, and what's not helping them either in terms of gaps is that they're lapping quite well. Last lap for Alpha Trojan was half a second quicker than both Scuderia Polo Rosso and JW Bird Motorsport. Hashtag Blessed are a further 45 seconds back in fourth fastest position. It's qualified. Fifth is the Euro Car Parts car with Josh Cook at the wheel now, 5.99. He's now lapping at the moment. His last lap was a 3 minutes 1.639, and still he's faster than Hashtag Blessed, but got to find some pace on both Polo Rosso and JW Bird ahead of him. Sixth place is the highest of the two WRC developments with CB Auto Services car, and that car will currently have at the moment within it Ed McDermott. So if that's the right, if that's the same Ed McDermott that's done British GT, good to have him in the car there. It's then seventh place for the OPCPR car. That was started by Tom Ingram, but now now currently driven by another driver with plenty of British GT experience, with Ron Johnson. Eighth is the Emax Motorsport in the 346 car. That's the highest placed Emax car, and that now currently has Stuart Ratcliffe at the wheel. Ninth is the Stuart Cogswell. That's the 333 car. Steve Cogswell, yes, he's sharing that car with Dan Cogswell, Chris Diamond, and Simmons. Dan Cogswell, I know him from having raced in Club Sport Trophy and other different sort of Club Sport style series or hot hatch series in, of all things, that you don't really see very often on racetracks, and Nissan Almera. You see micros occasionally. Right, what not a great little car right now appears to be 345, because that's 346, and that's the Emax car that was in the top 10. So 346, the leading Emax car, it was currently showing as 8th across the line, is crawling along on the outside of Stowe Corner. So problems for the Emax car. Issues with the City car number 15. They're still trying to pick its way up the order in 16th at the moment. The leading C1 Endurance spec car for Emax, that was showing as 8th on the timing screen when they came across the line last, has an issue. That will have to crawl its way back through. Of course, if it can't make it, you have to try and pull off somewhere safely enough that it can be recovered and towed back. But if it can't do that, and it has to stop somewhere precarious, then I don't want to say it out loud too much, but could potentially lead to our second full course yellow if that car has to pull up somewhere that's deemed relatively unsafe. So the Emax car 346 will now have Stuart Ratcliffe at the wheel, and Stuart is having to figure out what the problem is and possibly bring it round in limp home mode back to the pit so they can figure out what to do and what to fix. I'm sure there'll be some feedback on that one. I'm sure that if Rob, I might drop a message actually to say that the Emax car 346 is going slowly. Apparently, Arjen's microphone is not on, apparently. Or we can't hear Arjen.
Can you not? Can you hear me now? I can hear me, so I'm still on.
Yeah,
I'll carry on talking anyway.
Only because I'm being told, because he's not in the car yet, but Luke Souch is telling me that they can hear me talking about VHS tapes and whatnot, but for some reason they can't hear you. So
I'll look on the bright side, Luke. You can't hear me.
Let me just check, and just want to go into the stream myself. I'm going to quickly move them.
Yeah,
move
sure. Well, we'll have a quick look. So Alpha Trojan still in front. 22 seconds. Now, bear in mind we had 3 cars circulating before the stops, all in very close proximity. So I rather cynically said about the battle being disappearing, but it did. But such is life, isn't it, in terms of the way these races go? And some people will change tyres, some people will do a little bit of a refuel. So no doubt that has happened. And also some of the teams will be a little bit better drilled than others. Now, are we going to have a caution to deal with that car, or are we not? It is off the circuit, so it will be dealt with at handy time. But obviously what you don't want from that driver's perspective is it being left there and then not being able to have the opportunity to get back in the race. There is Josh Cook chasing down what in the previous stint would have been Aidan Hills, but Chris Etheridge in the car now. So potential battle on here for 4th position. So we'll see whether Josh Cook can get the 599 car up into a podium position. So the Blessed car, #Blessed, still there at the moment, but Josh Cook has managed to reel it in, as you would expect Josh to do. Very quick competitor. Mr. Lewis has joined us in the comms box. You all right, Rob? Hearty grin from Rob, which is good to see. That's good. Is Andy pit lane now, or are we having a little break? Just popped in. Excellent. Good to see you.
We might have a bit of investigation because the Emax car 346 has stopped on the approach into the pit lane. 346, that was the car that was running in 8th position. Stuart Ratcliffe at the wheel, and that car has it was running. I'm talking out loud for the purpose of the broadcast and for Rob in the background. It was running slowly on the approach to Stowe Corner, and then it simply just ground to a halt and has stopped on the entrance of the Grand Prix pits. So it stopped there. So it's going to have to be recovered. So Rob was to come for a break, and then we sent him back out to go and investigate what's happening over at Emax.
Who's the picture on the side of the Blessed car?
Lewis Hamilton.
Is it Lewis?
Sir Lewis Hamilton, yes.
It looked like mid-year to me. I was just thinking, why have they got mid-year on the side of the car, if you know mid-year is?
I laugh because it's funny, I don't quite get who or what mid-year is. But,
he's only mid-year, Ultravox lead singer.
Okay.
Do they know it's Christmas? He was responsible for that.
I believe or not, even though it's before my time, I'm familiar with Ultravox.
When we see it again, we'll take a poll. Again, send your postcards in to Luke Souch at Brscc if you think that looks like... If you think that looks like mid-year.
Mid-year. Okay, you said it so quickly. I was thinking.
Mid-year.
I almost said it like one word, like mid-year. So.
Mid-year. Force Majeure. That's an interesting,
good
right, album
okay.
worth listening to. Tangerine Dream. I fell asleep at one of their concerts in the 70s, but it's into that now. Here we go.
It's. I feel like Le Mans 93 when it's kind of like there was a situation before. If anyone's watched the tape before, and it's got the Radio Le Mans coverage on it, and there was a commentator or someone in the pit lane called Janice, and they had Ian Titchmarsh and a couple others in there. And there was one point where there was sort of she was overseeing, I think, like a Courage pit stop, and they wanted to go and see the Jaguar XJ220s. So they said to her, "Look, do you want to go and see the Jaguars?" And then she was down at the Courage pits and kind of looking at that. So they said, "Right, well, we want to go and see the Jaguar's probably more important." So she said, "Okay, well, I'll go and walk up there." And then halfway down, the Jaguar left the pit stop, and they went, "Yeah, Jace probably didn't make it." And it's like, do you want to? And then a Courage came in, and they went to Janice. She went, "Yes." It's like, you know that situation at Courage. Bless her. I don't think she's with us anymore. So bless her, rest in peace for her. But it's what makes it one of my favourite Le Mans, because the Real Le Mans culture and that is so great, and also because of it's being the last of the 3.5 litre cars and the Jaguar XJ220s and everything else. It's my favourite Le Mans in terms of everything else, and that's one of my favourite moments. In fact, it's kind of one of the poor pit reports being made to go one direction than the other, because cars keep coming in and out of pits when it's more based on importance. So that made me think of that when the Emax car had stopped. We sent Rob to go off and have a look at Emax, and it moved. As soon as he's down there, its car's moved. But it's going to have to come back to the pits anyway to be looked at, because of course the car's been quickly fired up and restarted. You saw on the timing screen there that 346. It says it's out, but of course the car I think now will probably be at least trying to push away and push forwards. But I mentioned which car it was, and Rob had almost a look of horror in his face, thinking, "No, it's not 346."
Yeah, it was
he was practically terrified. Right there, it is. It's still being pushed now into the currently the Grand Prix pits, but it looks as though it's simply got little to virtually no drive for whatever reason. Now, whether that's electrical, whether it's a drive shaft problem, or some kind of a sensor that's causing an issue, we'll have to wait and see. There was no smoke or steam or sparks or anything else coming out of the car, so the car simply just slowed. So it could be something maybe like an engine mode that's caused it to go into, it's cut out, gone into limp home mode, or something that's gone wrong. And that car now out of contention for what would have been a strong top 10 position. And that car also was probably the lead car they were not relying on, but it's probably the favourite car to take the challenge to the likes of Alpha Trojan and all the different strong squads that are in the field. So unfortunately for them, that's happened.
I'm trying to remember who it was said to me, watching the picture of the car being pushed along very slowly, and you get to, read all of the sponsor details, not just the big ones on the side of the car. And I think it was a Ginetta driver, possibly Fraser Robertson, who said, if I break down, it's good because I'll get more TV coverage because the car's going slow enough to read the the graphics. I think it was Fraser. If you remember him. Remember he used a Carrera Cup car as a launch pad, went over the back of one at Clearways at Brands Hatch.
Oh, right, okay.
Well. Lovely guy. Great character, really great character. Very funny man, and enjoyed some of his racing. Very politically incorrect at times as well, I have to add. I'm not telling you what he said, but yeah, good character. Of that, what did he say?
Not safe for broadcast.
Yeah, of the age or something they say now. Don't know. Anyway,
hands in the end celebration, because of course as it's seen on the screen, the Brscc car is back out on track by the looks of it. So it is back out on the road.
So we've got the red car. I'm going to call Alan Hosey in here. I think we're going to say the Blessed car's got a face on the side. I think it looks like Midge Ure from Ultravox when we see it. Do you think that looks like Midge Ure? No, he doesn't. Oh, right. It's Lewis Hamilton, all right then.
Yeah, Lewis Hamilton, yeah. We get the close up there, an extreme close up of the decal on the side of that one. It's been chased actually by him being kept honest to actually have Brscc. But this is actually for position. This is for fourth and fifth. This is for
This is what we were. Yeah, with Josh Cook closing in, and that's what sort of sent me down that one. So
yeah, and this is Chris Etheridge who's battling with, who has raced before. I think he's the same Chris Etheridge who has also raced before. If it is the same one, forgive me if it's not. But the other Etheridge I know of is that they've raced a BMW M3 in Supersport Endurance a few times, and so that car he's familiar with endurance racing, and of course on top of that he's done a lot of endurance stuff with the hashtag Blessed team in C1 races in the past.
Does Lewis have a connection with the team, putting the
no, I think it's just an in-joke, obviously, because before there was an in-joke in terms of him back in the early days of him dominating Mercedes, where he was blessed for having he's saying I'm blessed for having a good team and for having a great car and stuff like that, and of course that seems to be the butt of a few people's jokes. So they've kind of played on that by calling the team
I get
blessed, and of course used to do a lot on social media talking about that similar sort of thing, and so it's almost become, I guess, like a bit of an unofficial Lewis Hamilton fan club or shrine to him in many cases, that car being called hashtag Blessed. It's got a good strong group of drivers in there as well. Chris Etheridge doing a fine job, particularly keeping Cookie at bay in fourth and fifth position. He's doing a grand job. But yes, I do believe that the Brscc car is back out on track and not in the pit lane. Thankfully. Yes, it's his, and it now has the man himself, Paul McCurdy, at the wheel now. So he's now
back out.
Jumped in.
Right, let's rub our hands together.
Well,
and have some fun.
It's not him back. It's his first stint in the car. He's gone back.
The car is back out. Yeah.
It is 41st out of 42 cars. So he's back at the mix. There he is.
Paul McCurdy. There we go.
Yeah,
I used to commentate on him in Scottish BMW Compact Cup, I think it was, going back in the day.
Yes.
And to be fair, actually, he was good.
He's done a little bit also of, if I remember correctly, I think it's the Track Day Trophy or Track Day Championship. Before. I think he used to share a car with Robin Welsh, I think, if I'm correct, in a BMW 330, I think.
Right.
He's done a couple of outings in racing. He's also raced a Fun Cup car a couple of times at once at Alton Park, and he's also done a bit of MX-5 racing, shared an MX-5 with Graham in a Club Sport Trophy race, I think, as well, a couple of times, and so now he's getting his first chance of C1 endurance racing as the sun starts to go down. Message on the race on the timing screen: team manager of car 542 is being called to race control. That's never a good sign for anything. 542 is outside the top 30. I think, that's the Automax racing car. That's got Tom Magnay in the wheel. So Automax Racing are being called to race control. We don't know for what reason yet. If there was a penalty, I'm sure it will be applied not long after they've gone to race control. And seeing here on screen, that's the Burton Power car circulating with one of the JW Bird machines, and I think that was also possibly Rabsport, if not the Polo Rosso car in there. There's the Bacon Racing with Liquid Molly machine. Definitely tell us then, Liquid Molly and blazed all over that car.
Good strong brand. It's probably the strongest known brand that we've got in the event. I think.
Possibly. I think maybe possibly on a par, maybe Euro car parts alongside that as well.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah. So I think that is Rabsport as well in car 432. I think they'll be dipping their toes into, I think, Ginetta Juniors of Rabsport will be doing something on the Toka package. I think Ginetta's of some kind. Ginetta Juniors, I think.
Don't remember the minute. Obviously, might be doing something this year. Ginetta's very well supported this year. Actually, running very strong, bucking the idea that everyone said it wouldn't do very well outside the BTCC package, but it continues to thrive and grow, which is wonderful because they're great people.
Yeah,
people there.
Just needed the right push when it was on that package, and it has been given that push, and it's now in a good position, a very healthy position in that. We've got Josh Cook here, who's going up the inside of 558. That is not for position. He's still chasing the #Bless car with Chris Etheridge at the wheel. The top three hasn't changed. It's still Alpha Trojan from Scuderia Polo Rosso and JW Bird. The rest of the top 10 outside behind #Blessed and Euro Car Parts. WRC Development's currently 6th at the moment. That's their 486 car. 431, which is the OPCPR car with Ron Johnson at the wheel. He's currently 7th. Fighting Talk at 8th at the moment with Ollie Samways. He's a former Mighty Minis champion. Before that, I've known Ollie from having raced a rather nice Toyota MR2 with a front wing split. I think it was an X-Lite MR2, like I think they called it a Super GT spec one.
Is it related to Simon the ex-autographs, if you know?
I'm not sure, to be honest. Maybe that's a question
for
check out.
One for Rob. Rob,
if Rob happens to or someone happens to conduct an interview with Ollie, I'm sure that they'll be able to tell us if it's that's in relation to him. And then the rest of the top 10, once we keep an eye on this.
Here comes Cookie. Josh Cook looking around the outside. Is he going to be able to do this? Yeah, that is very much yes, I am, and he does. Lifts the wheel there, goes through, and I've got to say, 3 terrific-looking cars in that shot. Great move by Josh Cook. Sorry, cut across you a little bit there. Apologies for that.
These things happen, so I'm just going to catch them in the moment. So, rightfully called though, Josh Cook has now picked up the place. I'm going to put an asterisk on it and say temporarily, because it looks like Chris Etheridge is kind of posturing around the rear end of Josh Cook's car, thinking he wants to try and do something to try and get back past it. But Chris's pace is pretty strong itself anyway, so I wonder if these two are going to circulate around with each other, possibly with the Silver Lake car in tow as well, because that car 558, which
has 2 laps down, isn't it?
2 laps down, but it currently has at the moment in 558 Alan Preble. So it has the man himself, Alan Preble from Silver Lake, is chasing after him. He's a pretty handy peddler. I'm going to make a presumption here, and hopefully you won't kill me for saying so. I presume it's related to Gary Preble in terms of he's quite prominent in anything he touches and races. I think one of the last I've seen him race, he was racing, I think, in the GTCRC series, and he was on the same grid as the Super Tourers. I think he was here at Silverstone a couple of years ago. There was 4 or 5 Super Tourers, or a few Super Tourers in there, and touring cars, and he was getting up amongst them as the leading kind of pre-93 car, or pre-03 car. And it was a little bit like a touring car, but he has a properly souped up, like Honda EG Civic, and had a rear wing on the back of it, nice sort of touring car style rear wing on the front splitter on it. Rapid getting up there amongst some of the touring cars, which is pretty impressive. So he's done a few other things. I think he raced a Vauxhall Astra and a couple of other different cars at Castle Coombe quite regularly as Gary Preble. I was wondering if he was possibly related. Gary and Alan are related and not just having a similar surname. So that's another top driver, another top car, and as I kind of anticipated, Etheridge is not allowing Cook here to get away immediately.
No, you called that well, Scott.
He might be slightly better on the brakes, but what intrigued me, what led to me with that is that Etheridge wasn't one to he wasn't on a pace that kind of allowed Cook to just get past straight away. So they seem pretty evenly matched on pace, and now it's Etheridge getting the benefit of the tow from Cook rather than the other way around. It's what I call the hunter now becomes the hunted, because it's now Etheridge doing the chasing rather than doing the leading. And while Cook might find himself to be a tiny bit more confident leading, he knows he's giving a free tow away to Etheridge right behind, and so that will only be a chance for him to try and slipstream and get back through. I've just mentioned quickly rounding off the rest of the top 10. Fighting Talk are currently in 8th position. We talked about Ollie Samways. 9th is the 333, the CMR Racing car motorsport car. And then 10th is number 432, Rabsport Racing. That runs off the top 10 at the moment.
It's been a good, very nearly 3 hours, isn't it? We've got 21 hours, 7 minutes on the clock. So, yeah, it's been a good start, and long may it continue. And the thing is, you know, some of us will go away from the track and come back early tomorrow morning, and things would have completely altered. And then there's a lot of hours to catch up on what happened and so on and so on. What time do you think you'll be here to?
I'm not sure. I'm usually a bit of a night owl anyway myself. I possibly, maybe around about midnight, at a stretch, maybe 1 o'clock, because the hotel is only about 10 minutes away. So
yeah.
Not too bad. But yeah, for those who are wondering, so we're going to do a sort of a we can say it. That's a rated them on-ish or inspired style kind of part of the stream we get from 9 o'clock until about 12, 1 o'clock.
So you're going to do it on the split screen and sort of.
Yes, and I'll at least be heading up into the comms tower to use the circuit comms. We're going to tap into that.
Got you.
Obviously, it won't go out on the circuit because I'll turn that right down, and so you wouldn't hear that. But we can tap into that feed, and they'll be able to kind of play that through to do that. Just noticed there, that was the. So I actually interrupted for a second because the C1 Scandinavian car, and I've seen that for a couple of cars as well. When it was right under brakes, it was so heavily braking and so heavily nosediving under braking that I felt as though that even the tyre was compressing so much that it was sparking the rim a little bit against the ground. It was leaning. So I can't say I've ever seen that before on a C1. I've seen them leaning into corners properly, but the fact it was braking that hard and kind of trail braking in. The rim was also sparking a bit on the ground as it leant to kind of on the tyre, which is never seen that before in C1. That's quite extraordinary. But yes, so we'll do a little bit similar to that and do some wandering up and down pit lane and just for the next few hours after.
Are you off on Monday? Having a nice day's rest on Monday, or knowing you'll be social media and everything else on Monday? But
I'm actually off to do some other activities at Cadwell Park, shall we say, on Monday. And so there's no kind of rest.
No rest of the weekend.
And then a couple of days after that, I'm heading off to Austria because I've got the next round of the Porsche Championship that I'm sort of doing some stuff for them. So busy few days, but it's all a part of motorsport and all part of the fun. So it's all enjoyable to have in that mix. Speaking of mix, we've got Fibre Live down towards the left-hander of Brooklands, and in the middle of that's down the motorsport car. You see there, look, just as it was on the brakes, it leant on the tyre.
Yeah.
The front right, which just sparked a tiny bit on the Army Motorsport car. It's purely just, I think, how the tyres compress as you go, if you're leaning on the suspension all the way through the corner. In that group of cars, you have got the 486 WRC Developments car, so that's around some lapped cars to try and get around. See the car in which one it is. It's just in front of the Army Motorsport car, the We Buy Any foam delivery machine. They make their way down towards Cops Corner as a group, headed in on track by the 585 car. 585, the Emax Motorsport, that's the Zoltan Chaboy car. I think that's a trio of, at least one of them is an ex-Caterham racer, Zoltan Chaboy definitely, because I recognise that name. And he's sharing that car with Scott Lawrence and Tristan Judge. And did make some looks on them. So he's done. He's been former Caterham racing, Zoltan. Scott Lawrence is a former Caterham Sigmac graduates racer. Tristan Judge has also done a little bit of historic racing. He's raced the BMW 635 CSI in the historic touring car challenge a couple of times, so he's got some of his own racing experience. I was certain that also Tristan had done some Caterham racing too, but couldn't find anything on the research I was doing about him or anything else. You can see now that it is, as it is now, just past 25 to 9. So we've got 25 minutes left of full broadcast left to go before we switch to our overnight camera and overnight feed. That'll be on a separate stream, part 2. So once this feed finishes, or just before it finishes, you want to switch over to part 2 on YouTube. Just search that up, or go to the Brscc YouTube channel, go to the live tab, and you will see that's ready to go, and click on that. And we'll try and keep you informed at least from 9 to roughly 12 o'clock or so to do as much info as we can. I'm going to say a dangerous thing here, which is touch wood. We've only had a full course yellow.
Yeah.
Only one, but no touchwood safety cars, which has been quite beneficial. And I don't think we'll need to see a safety car unless it's absolutely necessary, I don't think. I think it'll primarily just be full course yellows used in order to do that. And that's why they have both this, the Hue tags, also this GPS system installed as well. And also on top of that, you have the Raceiver system as well, so that the race controllers talk to the drivers at any one time collectively at the same time when they're out on track. So one feed that gets piped into every single earpiece for every single driver out on track. They get the same message at the same time. So it's going to be quite an interesting few hours. Of course, we'll come back at around about, I'll be here before 9 o'clock before we get things going again to check in on what's been happening. And I'm sure in the kind of roughly 7 hours that I'll be away from the circuit, many things will have changed.
Yeah, that's just what I was saying. You know, it's quite nice if I have a bout of insomnia tonight, I can flick TSL on and listen to the circuit commentary, or put the feed on and get that, which is actually quite a nice thing to be able to check up on and see who's where and who's conked out.
give a shout out to everyone that's watching on the stream right now on the Brscc feed. There's about 650 of you, so good to have you watching along, and thanks for those of you who have been watching all through the day, but not just on this stream, but on the support race stream that we had. Some great racing to kick off majority of the day before we had our main event here today, and of course throughout tomorrow. And people are asking about the update on the AF Racing Car 47. Haven't seen an update just yet on that car yet. The last time we saw it was that was the car that caused the one and only full course yellow that we've had, and we only saw the aftermath of it when it had an incident up at the first part of the double apex right-hander of Club, and it got towed away. Haven't heard anything from that since. Maybe that's possibly a message we can give to Rob Lewis to find out, if possible. And you'll have a look. And again, there, look, just a couple more cars. Just, whether it's tyre pressures or how they're leaning into the corner, or the speed they're carrying in, it surprised me how a couple of those wheels are just sparking as much as they are. It's quite extraordinary. And I think it's just a testament for how hard they're pushing, how hard they're pressing these cars at any given time in this race. There's no real point in this race where anyone can kind of really relax or literally metaphorically take their foot off the gas. It's really just pushing hard as much as possible in order to try and get the maximum out of it. So, coming up to 3 hours to go. Well, I think the clock actually is actually frozen in the top left corner. I think it's still showing as. Oh, there we go. I think it's reset. There you go. It's reset itself now. So, just over 3 hours gone. Then.
What did we learn in hour 3?
What did we learn in hour 3? That C1 cars spark when they lean on their wheels. We've also learned that
Midure looks like Lewis Hamilton.
Apparently so. We've learned the
Did anyone comment on that on the stream? Probably not.
I'm not sure.
Ignoring me, probably. I don't blame them, rightly so.
Let me scroll through the comments. I don't think they did.
No, I don't blame them, to be honest.
I'm sure there'll be plenty of different topics and things to talk about as the race as the evening goes on. There'll be plenty that we're trying to keep on top of as the race progresses. Liquid Molly there, that's the Bacon Racing car, and that car currently running at the moment. Oh, there, I'm missing them on the screen. Where's Bacon Racing got to? That's on top 30.
Bacon, I think they are, aren't they?
Top
having 30. A dice with Paul McCurdy, I think.
Let's have a look. Bacon Racing, how far back are they? They are 31st, 3 laps.
Oh, only just outside there.
Didn't quite catch the reason why. They're lapping quite quickly though. The last lap was a 3 minutes 1.483. And their best in the race was a 2:59.6. They've had some issues earlier on, and they're trying to pick their way back up through the order. And that might be a theme throughout the race. Teams like Bacon Racing, and if Emax get their car back together again, BPC Motorsport, they're lapping relatively quickly and quite fast. That might be a story of the race where some of them will be using the time, particularly in the evening stint, if it goes trouble-free, to quite simply just try and claw time back and try and pick their way back up through the order.
Yeah.
So that will be a theme in there, and of course, if they'll probably hope that full course yellows don't disrupt that too much, but how that will play out remains to be seen. There is the third place car there, 310, making its way around the outside of its number neighbour, 309.
Yep.
That's the Ollie Samway's car, and that's actually it. I think putting a lap on the 8th place. Yeah, that's the third place car. Well, now it's the third place car, putting a lap on the 8th place car, whilst he's also chasing after the JW Bird 347 machine. So that was scrap for second and third. And also in there is the Bacon Racing car. They're all lapping pretty much at roughly the same sort of pace, and Bacon is not purposely, but making itself a bit of a nuisance on the back of JW Bird, trying to chase after it. Turning its way out of Village and the loop.
We need Potter Rosso, don't we, just to sort of close up here and give us a scrap for second. Which would be fun.
I mean, looking at lap times, I mean, to be fair, the last lap for Scuderia Polo Rosso was a 3:03.7 compared to 3 minutes 0.4 for JW Bird, which is lapping at the same pace as the current leaders, who else but Alpha Trojan. Austin Monday has quite a comfortable lead at the moment, having completed 59 laps. We're coming up to 60. And time-wise, where are we at? We've got another roughly just 17 minutes on that one. Shout out to JL, who says, great commentary guys, well done. Can you give a shout out to Cartwheel Capers, car 597 compared to the Metal Martin? We've had some bad luck.
They have had some bad luck, yeah.
Some bad luck in this race so far. They've had I think a penalty, they've had an issue with an incident, they're coming with some other mechanical problems. So I think Cartwheel Capers are the ones that had, I think they were the ones that had...
They had a stop go, didn't they? They had a sin bin, didn't they?
Yeah,
for not checking out of the pit lane correctly. Not tagging.
Good memory. Yeah, I think it was 5
And then they went through the international circuit pit lane.
Yes, they did. Yes, that was it. Yeah, we joked
I've
where they got the pit.
I've got to say, if there was a prize for my favourite team name, and I looked at the entries in the week, Cartwheel Capers would get it. There's no prize, but they can have a paper award, as we used to call it when we were being tight. A paper award. It's a great name. Really good.
It's pretty good. As is in the Concrete Box right now, it's
getting dark now,
isn't it? It is getting darker, but it's actually creating quite a nice backdrop. We've got the headlights coming on now. If you look around the circuit and you look at the scenery around the circuit, you've got this beautiful sort of orange glow, this warm orange glow around with the sunset coming through, and it's lovely clear sky, so there's no cloud around whatsoever, and so you get this really nice sort of almost brighter evening. I guarantee if it was cloudy, it'd be darker out there a bit, but
yeah,
it's nice. It's nice clear skies on what's a really nice kind of late spring evening. Now the clocks have gone forward.
Bring forward.
Gone forward now, so we get longer days going towards the summer.
Did I tell you about the time I forgot to put my watch on?
No, but go
forward and missed a meeting with a Formula boss that I should have been at.
Okay.
That wasn't too smart, so always check your watch.
Yeah.
Not a good thing to do. Sorry, go on.
No, you carry on.
I was just going to be a weather comment, so I'm very, very lucky we haven't had a pile of rain.
Yeah,
hopefully tomorrow will be all right too.
We did have some overcast weather over, I think it was in the Club Sport race and also during the last couple of
It got cold out there.
It
got cold out there I was shaking when I was doing the F4 interviews on the podium. Hand was starting to shake with the cold.
Really?
Then. Because I only had the shirt on, didn't have my coat on at the time. So.
People call me mad for wearing this jumper this weekend.
No, nothing wrong with that.
Justified. Matt Lockie has on the stream. Good to see you, Matt. He said, do they replace any major parts of these cars during the race? Yes, they can go as far as replacing engines. And they one story which I know they wrote like Peter, we mentioned it in the lunch break earlier on with Scuderia Polo Rosso. They went through three engine failures in 2023, and after the third one, they had no engines left and had to sadly retire from the race. So yes, they do replace major components, even the engines. If they need to, and they will have spares, and usually spare engines can, depending on if they get them from breakers yards or from scrap yards or anything else, or just as part exchanges, some engines can be pretty cost effective and pretty, I guess, cheap for engine costs in there. Just a quick check of change of subjects. The 421 Trojan Motorsport just gliding its way past some back markers as Austin Monday continues to pile up the race leading car.
Rob Lewis just popped in. The Emax car that we saw had the problem. They're just not sure what it is. They just refueled, and they're trying to get to the bottom of it. So, no, I'm not even going to speculate because it's.
Anything I was going to put in there was potentially it was something like a fuel pickup problem, maybe also along the line. If they've refueled and they're still fueling the car, but it's not going.
Yeah.
It'll either be, I think, possibly fuel pickup or maybe electrical, one of the two, depending on what might happen. As I said, there was it wasn't a major mechanical, because if it was, it would have had some kind of smoke or steam or, dare I say it, we never want it, but some kind of flame of some kind.
None of that.
But it just simply just ground to a halt, so it could either be something. Usually, if there's no smoke or steam and it's growing to a halt, I either think it's one of two things default. It's either electrical or some kind of drive shaft issue.
Yeah.
Or like a transmission issue of some kind, which means it can't. The car can't get drive for some reason because it's the electric program and the ECU causing a fault, or something mechanically like the gearbox or the drive shaft. Something has gone and you can't get any motion or any forward motion on it at all. So that's the reason why. So Emax will be able to find out what the issue is when they get the car back. I'm sure the driver, Stuart Ratcliffe, would have had no real indication or kind of idea of what the problem was, and he's just not getting any drive at all through the car, which is a shame, but that is part of the race. And so the mantle that Emax had is now having to be taken up by the teams that are now towards the front, particularly JW Bird, who stayed the course throughout 2023, and Scuderia Polo Rosso. I hope, we don't really have any favourites on this stream, but I hope that Scuderia Polo Rosso have the luck this year and actually get a good finish, because after having blown the three engines in 2023, they certainly need it based on some of the pace that they show. But that's when we talked to them in the lunch break. That's a brand new built car for this. I think for this season at least. It's for this race. It wasn't ready for the Silverstone race at March, but it was ready for this weekend. And they seem to be happy with it, making the most of what they've got, and just pushing on and seem to have some good pace. And what they've seen so far, very impressive run so far for them in this first part of the race, to see how they might progress. And fingers crossed as the race goes on. They said the luck has stayed with them. They're not getting involved in too much, and it does work out quite well for them.
Hope it does. We're over an eighth of the way through the race now. It's quite a chunk, isn't it?
It is.
As we head into what I think is the bonkers bit, where you're looking at the cars. When we got the shot of them coming down the Hamilton Straight, I just thought, wow, that's what reminds me when you first get the dark and the lights of the cars and all of the bits and bobs that they've got to light the cars up and make them look super. That's when I suddenly think this is a completely bonkers game. I really do. But where are we with an eighth in the mix? I think we've got the top 8 cars or 7 cars on the lead lap at the moment. So
yes.
It's been funneled down, hasn't it, incredibly quickly. When you think we're only 3 hours in, and those cars on the lead lap, Alfa Trojan, JW Bird, Scuderia Polo Rosso, Car Parts, Midure Blessed, WRC Developments, OPC PR, and possibly Fighting Talk. Have they gone through as well? They're showing us 1 lap down. I think it's 7 that we counted on the lead lap.
Yeah, I think you're right. Top 7 are on the lead lap at the moment.
I would have thought by the time we switch over to Radio Silver Lake 24 Hours.
Yes, for a few hours. Yes.
That it was. I thought there would have been more cars. That would have been, if you'd have asked me, or maybe out on the grid walk, how it would be. I would have expected around about maybe sort of a third of the field perhaps to be on the lead lap. So I'm surprised, but it just goes to show great. This is the bonker shot for me, isn't it? In the dark, very much dark down there. So a couple of surprises for me in the opening stints here.
Yeah, there's been a couple of teams that have had their own issues and had to try and come back up a little bit. Some teams which are further back than they would like to be. I think 2 of the big ones I think that had some issues are the WRC Developments car, which has David Drinkwater as part of their driving strength. That car's had some issues which has put it back in the field and trying to climb back up the order. That car actually, since that happened,
it's done well, hasn't it?
It's only 2 laps off the lead. It's either a lap or 2 laps off the lead.
Yeah.
So it's come across. It's 2 laps off the lead. It's come across the line. 19th. So it is coming back. And actually, looking at lap times, its best lap was a 3:08. Current lap time is 3:02, and that's quicker than just about everyone.
That's a good shout. Yeah, it's a good spot.
Everyone ahead of it outside of the top 8.
Yeah.
So that will keep on climbing up the order. If they can, again, touch wood, go through the evening stint with no problems and no dramas, they could definitely, at the very least, get themselves firmly back up into the top 10 and give themselves a half-decent result. It's a proper fight-back effort. Just checking that car, it's in 19th. Who's the wheel of that car right now? It is Will Gibson. So it's Legends champion himself, Will Gibson, who is pedalling that pretty quickly and making the most of his, I think it is his C1 endurance debut of any kind, I think, because he's more used to the short pocket rockets, the small pocket rockets that are the Legends rear-wheel drive bike-engined machines.
Need to go and check the car actually. I'm sure Will have it on there, but he'll have for Tim, his brother, who passed away. Okay. So I'm going to drag Jeremy down and make sure we get a shot of that tomorrow.
Yeah.
At some point. Pleased to say that I did actually get to see Tim Gibson Racing Legends. They started as a team car, and he was a very well respected engineer in the motorsport community. And yeah, always great to see that on the car and think about him. He's a good chap. Pleased that I only met him the once, but yeah, lovely guy to have met, and Will always races in his memory, which is great. 2 championships as well now in Legends. Trying to go for a 3rd. It's going to be a difficult year for Legends this year, but anyway, I won't talk about them now. You can catch up with them on ITV later in the year. Visit to Croft.
Certainly can. Speaking of visits, team manager of car 558 has been asked to visit base control. That's the Silver Lake car that's back in 24th position. So team manager, which I think is probably going to be Greg Rose, I think, he's overseeing things. He's going to have to go up and see what he's being asked to speak about. So that's him again. That's another car that's on the comeback trellis. That's probably going to be the story of the evening, watching these cars that have to come back through the field, seeing what they can do, because both the Silver Lake cars are quite far back. The number 17, the 17th place 458 car and the 24th place 558 car, both of which are back down the order. WRC Developments we just talked about are climbing back up into 19th. Bacon Racing, that's another one as well, which maybe Rob might shed some light if he knows at all as well. Bacon Racing back in 30th place. Not quite sure at all. It's just one of those teams that's not had a rub of the luck at all for some reason in the pit stops or anything else. But they dropped back to P30. So again, they'll be on the comeback tonight if they can do it drama-free. Both of the Silver Lake cars will. WRC Developments will also be coming back up the order too. And if they can fix the problem, the mystery problem on the Emax car as well, that will come back to the order as much as it can too as well.
I think they just dealt with Paul McCollin, so we saw Paul is still out there. Be pleased they managed to put 3 or 4 laps together.
Yes, so they have. Yeah.
Well done, guys. Just go.
Yes.
Oh, Rob laughed at that one. Thanks for laughing at me,
yes.
But yeah, I think comeback-wise, talking about WRC Developments, very much like how you would approach the race, maybe as a journalist, it's incremental, isn't it? So you're thinking, oh, I can't believe we've had 3 hours, 3.25 hours gone already. It has passed really quickly for me, probably less quickly for everybody viewing at home. But you tick off the boxes, you know, first hour done, second hour done, third hour done. The driver's going to do that as well. If you get a problem earlier on, as the WRC Motorsport car did, then it's incremental. You're looking at from the back. I mean, they must have been the lower reaches of the P30, 38, 39, after that initial problem. So you target, you think, right, top 35. Once you got there, top 30. Once you then get in there, top 25. And WRC Developments are at the moment, I've lost them. Where are they on the
19?
586, 19. So into the top 20. So that incremental, and it gets harder as you go further up. You know that, but bit by bit, stealthily work your way up the order, and that's a pretty good performance for me in the first 3 hours after that initial problem. Really good stuff.
There's a comment in here that's coming from Philippa Etheridge. There's a big shout out to Chris Etheridge, big sister mum watching live. And
Nice.
apparently, according to her, no, it doesn't look like mid-year.
Fair enough. I will go with that. Once you said I could see it, to be perfectly honest, but no, I do appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah. So
and apologies for any offence, of course. I'm not trying to wind anybody up. I just thought, you know.
Someone was listening.
That's good. Yeah.
Another car being called to race control or team manager, car 315 is being asked to call up as well. So car 315, which is more for Emax. That's the Hayden Payne car. That's the Emax Racing / RPM Warehousing / Ultima Group UK car.
Hayden Payne.
Hayden Payne. And that's 35th position. That's back 4 laps off the lead. That's dropped down quite a bit. We are closing in on the last couple of moments of our fully Comden Cambridge part of the stream. We'll be switching to the second part fairly shortly. We'll be getting that going shortly. If you're going to get in order once it's ready to go. And as I say, what you'll see on that part of the screen, you'll see a locked off camera. You'll have it looking down the pit straight. You will see in that shot both the cars coming down the pit straight, but also coming into the pit lane. And for the rest roughly, let's say at least 2, if not maybe 3 of ours, plus however we can do. It'll be at the very least myself on comms. I think Rob's also going to want the pit lane as well. Unless anyone else wants to join in too, and just have a chat to some people. And also,
the circuit comms still there as well?
I think they've gone home for the day.
So no John Ward or Martin Haven, or
unfortunately not. But again, we thank them, of course, for all the
yeah,
work that they've done.
And I want to thank them as well for, particularly Martin and Andrew. Was it the other guy for being very gracious in pit lane and
yes, Martin Haven, Andrew Mather, and John have been our circuit comms team this weekend.
Yeah.
Excellent job from all 3 of them.
Very
today.
gracious in pit lane. We've you know what it's like, Scott, when you're doing pit lane.
Absolutely,
it's difficult when you've got a circuit commentator on the stream, and I think we've all been fair with each other, and it's a difficult job, and those guys made it a lot easier for us. So thank you guys for that. I look forward to catching up with you tomorrow as well. I don't know who's going to do the final podium, whether we'll trust Rob to do the final podium at the end of the day, as he knows most of the pit lane stuff with the drivers, as I'm on the final stint with Andy.
Probably, yes.
So that would be an idea. But yeah, we are creeping towards 9 o'clock, so I think Rob's going to do a visual sign-off for us in pit lane once we get to 9.
I believe so,
as he kicked it off for us. It makes sense for him to top and tail the output for us, but this is where it starts to get atmospheric, and it's a wonderful thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is. For me, we'll do a quick rundown of at least the top 10 or the top order before we sign off, so I can hand over to Rob. But this part of the race, and hopefully you'll see it as it goes through and enjoy this part anyway. Oof, that's the Project 69 car running wide, and also Silver Lake as well. This is, for me, one of the best parts of motorsport. Motorsport at night, there's nothing else like it. I love to describe it as, seeing pairs of headlights, you see here, just dancing in the darkness, watching going through. And so for those watching trackside, will certainly enjoy it too in the mix. So we're coming up now to the conclusion of our fully common cameras part. We're coming up now with 20 hours and 41.5 minutes left to go in this 2025 Brscc 24-hour race. We'll do a very quick rundown of the top 10, see where we are before we hand to Rob, so we'll hold on for a second. Current leaders then, Austin Monday, Arthur Trojan, number 421. They have a 42-second lead over JW Bird Motorsport 347 in second place. Third place is Scuderia Polo Rosso for the 45 seconds back, and it's 599 Euro car parts in fourth with Josh Cook at the wheel. Fifth is number 326, hashtag best, Chris Etheridge at the wheel. Sixth place is the WRC Developments 486 car. That's ahead of OPCPR with Ron Johnson at the wheel. That car's been driven by Tom Ingram at the start, 431. Eighth place is car for Brio 9 Fighting Talk with Ollie Samways at the wheel. Ninth place is CMR Racing Par Motorsport with 63 laps completed. And rounding off the top 10 currently as we sign off our full Cameron Hunter, Rob Lewis in the moment, is JW Bird in car 449. Well, if I might say so for myself, from myself, Scott, with Richard, John Neal, and
good night, everybody.
And very well in the mix. Thanks for joining us. You'll hear my voice very shortly as I go back into the comms tower to go and give us some kind of limited visual comms only work. I'm sure it's wrong with Rob in that too. And for myself, thanks for watching and that side of things. Enjoy the overnight stream. We'll try and give you some comms wherever we can. Let's give the final sign off before we go to our overnight stream. Let's throw down to the fourth member of our very valued team once again, Rob Lewis, to give us a run through of what to expect.
As we get ready to close part one of the 24-hour live stream, I just want to grab this man, Greg Rose, actually, because he's the team manager of car 558. Have you been up to see the Clarks yet?
I'm just going to, but you stopped me.
Oh, right. Okay. I better let him get on then. We'll hopefully find out some of the great unanswered questions from the first part of this race. We will find out by tomorrow morning what happened to the Emax cars. We had the City Car Cup that qualified on the front row, but sadly had a bit of contact 4 minutes in. We also had the car 346 that we were really rooting for a top three position in this race and fought for victory the last time we had a 24-hour race here in 2023, fighting against a Trojan car. Scuderia Polo Rosso and Trojan, at the moment, they are looking pretty good up the front and unbeaten, and Josh Cook is driving a mega stint in the beautifully prepared Euro car parts entry. There's still a lot of questions to be answered as we go through this 24-hour race. And as we go into the night and go down to the pit lane, we look at the bright lights and the bright colours of the cars here at Silverstone. But the commentators need a bit of a rest, so from Richard John Neal, from Andy McEwen, from Scott Woodwis and from myself, Rob Lewis, it's goodbye. The stream part number 2 that's on the lock-off cameras up on the bridge there and around the circuit, you will still be able to tune in, look at the cameras overnight, look at what cars are going around and look at the standings. We're going to try and get some lone commentary on there from Scott Woodwis and myself at times as well to update you throughout the night. But for now, from the stream part 1, it's goodbye.
Brilliant stuff. Nice little structure out on. That was awesome. Just in time as well. I can barely even think. Oh, look at that progress. So you're going to stay on a bit with Scott then, aren't you? Yeah. In that thing, are you? Yeah. Oh, that sounds good. It's been through to the lock-off part. Oh, you'll see them now. Yeah. They might have to adjust the brightness. Oh no, it's when you're hearing it here, it's this monitor boosted it. Football just noticing it. No, when it comes through here, it's quite.